and you are watching another Blitz film review. He has that ability to, trust me, he definitely does. Just his ability to catch balls outside of his frame, his leaping ability, his ability to hang in the air, his yak ability, it's all there. Lowers his helmet, low man wins, bang, rocks a guy.
Hall running free, Breece Hall inside the 10, he's gonna score!
The corners all do their job. You know, if you look at the picture right here, lock.
3rd and 1. Stevens always drilled. What a great defensive play.
I don't try to Monday morning quarterback any of the reviews I do, and I'll try to be honest with a lot of the things I put up. And you are watching / listening to another edition of Blue Blitz. A lot has happened since the last stream. I think the Jets only have signed Simpson, Moses, Kinlaw, and like maybe another guy or two. But about an hour after we get off the stream, Tyron Smith signs with the Jets, which we'll go over. We'll talk about his deal. I'm already all the way through his film. I'll just record a show earlier or later in the offseason. I'm all the way through Mike Williams, who we also signed in recent days, which we'll talk about that. And now I'm working on Simpson and Moses, and I'll work on all the other guys. And then just a little quick housekeeping thing, and this is about the reviews coming out. Some people have been asking me, again, doing a lot of prep work. I think I have like 28 reviews that I'm prepping right now, basically, most of them being done. Sorry, I'm trying to plug in my laptop while I'm also talking. But with that being said, next week starts the reviews. I'm off on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I plan on recording Bowers, Fashanu, and Latham on next Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So all of those reviews in terms of the draft guys will come out in the next few weeks. You can watch them all hopefully before the draft happens. But I'm doing the main like 7 guys who I think are the most likely for the Jets pick, being Neighbors, Odunze, the big 4 tackles, and then Brock Bowers. You'll get those all starting next week. So watch out for that. And then just prepping plenty of other reviews. But let's say hello to some people in the chat. JoRB31 on Twitter. I took a little bit of an L today. Not even an L. I tweeted. I basically tweeted that Odunze would be kind of, what's the word I said would be a little bit redundant in terms of his set of skills, especially considering what the Jets have now. Now, I think I should have worded a little bit better on Twitter. I don't think it should prohibit them from drafting Odunze. Do I think that it's a little bit of overkill with guys who are jump ball receivers and who aren't necessarily the greatest off the line? Yeah, Mike Williams, not the greatest off the line. Good deep speed, pretty smooth. He's actually very similar to Odunze. I would say he's a little bit more, he's bigger than Odunze. I would say Odunze is a little bit more athletic than Mike Williams overall, but they're similar. And then obviously you have Lazard, who's a discount version of both, and obviously like a very, very discount version of both. But when he made his hay with the Packers with Rodgers, it was a lot of deep balls, so you have a bunch of guys who are pretty similar. So I wouldn't necessarily love the build of the receiver core if those are your 3 or your top 4 guys. But nonetheless, we'll talk about the draft in a little bit. I actually have kind of a stronger take on the draft now. I'm leaning towards one thing that I want the Jets to do. I talked about this last week before any articles came out about the Jets potentially moving down or moving up, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, JoRB31 on Twitter. Again, a lot of reviews coming out. Find it on the podcast app too, Blue Blitz. If you can't listen to or you can't watch the whole 2 hours, obviously you can go onto the podcast app and listen to it. You just can't see highlights, and occasionally when I do pull up plays, you're not gonna be able to see it. So, hold on. Okay, I just clicked out of something. All right. Jets are the defending champions of the offseason and doing a good job of defending their title. I saw this when I was logging on. Let's just be transparent here. And Dakota, you agree with me. Their last offseason sucked. So they were not champions last offseason. Last offseason, it kind of seems like they got Rodgers and they just threw their hands up and said, okay, everything else is fine. So last offseason was really kind of like really shitty. Now, in terms of like the big splash move, yeah, I guess getting Rodgers like the splashiest move of the offseason maybe. But in terms of like following that up with smart moves, it was obviously terrible. So we were not champions of any offseason last year. Steven says, hey Joe, keep up the great work. I look forward to your show every Friday, man. I appreciate that, Steven. Again, a little. I'm not behind on reviews. There's a lot of stuff cooking. Again, hell of a week, by the way, too. With the Tyron Smith thing, the Mike Williams thing, it finally seems, and we have some risk here. Mike Williams has missed a decent chunk of games, which we'll go over the last couple of years. I think it was like 3 last year, week 4 or week 3 towards ACL. He had 13 games the year before that. And then it was like 15, 16, 15. So he's been a guy who has missed 2 or 3 games a year. And then maybe has been nicked up and come out of some other games. And then obviously last year he had the torn ACL, but he's not a guy who's like David Bakhtiari level of injured. He might miss, and we have to see how quickly he gets healed from the ACL and exactly when he plays. He expected to be ready by week 1. It happened in September. So you're expecting him to be ready for week 1. Do you want the Jets to slowly ramp him up? Of course you do. Which almost kind of is another reason why I emphasize receiver 3 in terms of their needs, because you don't know how quickly he gets back. You don't know how quickly he's back to form. Typically, guys take a year to get back to form, even after that first season. So, he might be 90%, 85% of what he was the last time we saw him on the field, which is still a hell of a good receiver. He's a really good number 2, or at least a solid number 2. Ridiculous contested catchability. It's pretty stupid. And sometimes it almost looks like pure luck. But when it looks like pure luck 10 times in a row, it's just a thing he's able to do. Bobbling balls, catching balls inside of his chest, bobbling into his left to his right, bringing it down through a hit. He's an exciting player, but obviously injuries. Same thing with Tyron Smith. Injuries. Now, it hasn't been brutal with Tyron Smith in terms of, again, missing like half the games, but it's been 3-4 games, a year for the last, I don't even know how many years, 4, 5, 6 years of Tyron Smith. But in terms of the peak of that player, just ridiculously talented. And Nani and I were talking about it before obviously before the signing happened. Like, would you rather have one or the other? I did not expect the Jets to be able to pull out both. Pretty ridiculous in my mind. And obviously we'll talk about the contracts, and that's part of the reason why. But going into the offseason, seeing some reports from the beat reporters who, I'm sorry, I don't think they break literally anything. We haven't heard any news about the Clowney visit. Did he leave yet? Is he still here? Or what's their line of communication? They kind of just parrot what Ian Rappaport's and Adam Schefter's say, and they're like, "Oh yeah, here the Jets signed this guy." It's like, yeah, awesome. You're quote tweeting a guy who I can read as well. Like, so they don't really break so much, but hearing them kind of say that, the Jets are going to be maybe a little bit in the discount, bin this offseason, and that's a little bit disheartening. And then the first couple of hours, there's 1,000 guards that come off, and you're getting concerned. Did I ever expect the Jets did I expect the Jets to be frugal? No. At first it seemed like they were going to be frugal. But then coming back with probably, I would say the number 1 or number 2 free agent in terms of receiver in this offseason. I would probably put, if I had it my way, if the decision was put in front of me, would you rather have Mike Williams or Calvin Ridley for the same money? I would probably say Calvin Ridley. Now, obviously, there's like a $10 million difference there. So I'll take Mike Williams for that price any day. So I think the Jets made out better there. But you're talking about the number 1 or 2 free agent receiver coming out in this free agency, minus maybe if T. Higgins gets traded. And then you're talking about the number 1 left tackle who, when he's playing, is just dominant still, just absolutely dominant. It is so fun to watch that guy. There's some hiccups in the run game. I think his run game is very, 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 very good. I don't think he's elite in the run game. In the pass game, he's elite. There's just no two ways about it. The patience in his feet, his core strength, his grip strength, his punch variability, his set variability, his patience, his understanding of stunts and blitzes and the quarterback set point. It's just all so pretty with Tyron Smith. So that was fun over the last couple of days, being able to watch his entire 2023 season. Same with Mike Williams. I watched 2022 and 2023, but nonetheless, let's keep going down the chat. John Hassel says he's tired. Won't catch it till tomorrow. John, no problem. You get your sleep. And catch up with me in the morning. Oh yeah, by the way, more news. I talked about this 2 weeks ago. One of the guys from my work is gonna roll his eyes at this point, but got the new truck. I got it. I'm fucking pumped. Chevy ZR2 2024. I'll show you guys a picture real quick. And it's like fully decked out. But I am in absolute love with my truck right now. So I'm gonna add some stuff to it, some JetX logos and stuff like that. But there's the ZR2 that I drove off the lot. It's awesome. Awesome. I went from like Volkswagens and Nissan Xteras and shitty Chevy work trucks. Now I had a Ford Fusion that was ass to going to that. So exciting. So this week has been legitimately awesome. Like this is just an awesome week. And it still seems like even after the Tyron Smith and Mike Williams signing, after all this good stuff's happening, they're still meeting with Clowney. Now I've talked about it in a few different ways in terms of like looking at the situation. And let's say Clowney is going to make $10 million flat. Let's just say that for an easy figure, easy to digest. $10 million. Again, a little bit redundant with JFM and JJ, to be transparent, at least in my mind. I would love to add him. I think he's a good player. A little bit redundant. I think you're going to have kind of like a little bit too much talent or money sitting on the bench if you do sign Clowney. But again, I won't complain. Beggars can't be choosers. But would you rather sign Clowney, or something that I've kind of thought about is, and and this is nothing deep, but would you rather have Clowney for 10 million, or would you rather have, I don't know, Josh Reynolds for 5 and Yannick Ngakoue for 5? I'd personally rather see the receiver address it, as well, because like I said with Mike Williams, is he ready for week 1? Even if he is ready for week 1, when is he getting up into full gear? So receiver 3 is a very important position to me right now. I think edge rusher is a slight need. It's like a very twinge of a need if you want like a speed rusher, but JJ is, I think, a decent pass rusher at this point. I think JFM is a decent to plus average pass rusher at this point. McDonald, you're hoping, is going to be, a stud, and he had plenty of flashes last year. That review is going to be coming out, in due time as well. So with that being said, is it absolutely necessary? No, but considering the Jets and knowing their coaching staff and how they like to operate on the defensive line, it's something that you should at least think about. But yeah, let's see. Mike says finally getting to catch a live stream. It's been forever. Hope everything's good. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a little bit, Mike. I've been missing you, Mike. Carlos says alt or Frashana with a 10 pick period. Alt's probably not going to be there. And I would say I'm fine. I'm kind of indifferent in the draft in terms of a tackle. I understand tackle's a smart thing to do because at the end of the day, Morgan Moses missed 3 or 4 games last year. Tyron Smith is expected to miss 3 or 4 games a year. So you're going to have that rookie. And let's just hope in a perfect world that Tyron Smith's 3 or 4 games are not in conjunction with Morgan Moses's 3 or 4 games. And then that rookie can play both left and right tackle, and get some experience at both. I completely understand that in saying that they're going to miss some games this year. Plus, neither of them are under contract next year. So don't be stupid. With you. I am completely with that line of thinking. I also completely understand the other line of thinking in terms of getting a weapon, whether it be Odunze, whether it be Bowers, Neighbors, trade up Harrison Jr., or whatever you want, because that piece may see more time. And in terms of like the peak of their impacts on the team this year, that receiver 3 would probably make a bigger impact. Now that's knock on wood, and everything's fine with our tackles, but let's say the team is completely healthy in the Super Bowl this year. Again, knock on wood, Jets are in the Super Bowl. Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses are starting, JC Latham on the bench, and then Lazard is your 3? Or would you rather have, let's just say in a perfect world, Neighbors, however that happens, but you have the tackles you have now, and then Neighbors is your 3, your 2/3. I think that's probably the higher ceiling, lower floor type of feel, where the other option with the tackle is just a safe option. Now for the Bowers stuff, again, you guys know where I stand on Bowers. I'm not the biggest fan of him as a prospect. Now, I think people misconstrue this sometimes in terms of like me evaluating prospects and like, okay, this guy's not top 5, not top 10. Just because I say they're not top 10 does not mean I don't think they could be a good player. Like when I say JJ wasn't a top 10 guy to me, and we took him at 27 or whatever it was, doesn't mean I hate him. I just didn't feel like he was worth a top 10 pick at that point. Same thing with Bowers. I don't think he's necessarily worth a top 10 pick. Just because the Jets afforded themselves the opportunity to take maybe a luxury pick, I would be okay with it at 10. But don't get it twisted saying like, okay, I think he's a 20th best player instead of the 10th best player doesn't mean he could not be a star. He could be a star. He has good athleticism. It's really good yak ability. There's just technical aspects of the game that I am very hesitant about with him. In contested catches, route running ability. I saw somebody put up on Twitter this week in terms of like yak and how he has a better yak percentage or yak number than both Odunze and Marvin Harrison Jr. It's like, okay, well, tell me you haven't really watched him without telling me you haven't really watched him. The reason he has so much yak is because he's getting bubble screens and pop passes and shield screens and all this stuff. So yeah, he's going to have more yak than Odunze, because Odunze is consistently getting, balls thrown up to him 50-50 balls. So how is he going to get yak? So people posting that stat like, oh, he's better than all of these guys at this because of these numbers. It's like you have to have knowledge of the scheme they're coming from and kind of what that should reflect in terms of the numbers. And that was one of my concerns with Elijah Moore coming out was I didn't really see him versus press a lot of free releases. Bowers is a lot of tunnel screens, pop passes, all that shit. And you rarely see him versus press coverage. So how would he perform versus an NFL safety? I'm not sure because I didn't really have to see him beat press coverage. I saw him running into a lot of wide open space, catching the ball in wide open space, and then breaking a tackle or two from guy from, who gives a fuck state. And yeah, it's awesome, but that is not Derwin James. So can you break tackles versus those guys? I don't know. So if we're just banking on Yak for a guy to be a top 10 prospect, because that's really all there is right now in terms of his like why he's so valued so high, it's because of athleticism and Yak. But I'm not betting on that with the top 10 pick right now. Again, at least a week ago. Now the fact that the Jets got Tyron Smith, they got Mike Williams. Okay, if they do it, fine. Little golf clap. I'll take the pick. I'm not going to be jumping for joy, even though it could be exciting. I think he could be an exciting player, but I personally rather, and I guess we're just going to get into this now. We'll talk about the needs. We'll talk about some of the other draft stuff just because I already got into it I didn't get into it with Carlos, but Carlos got me into it. Me personally, at this point, I know a lot of people want to trade down. So it's kind of like two lines of thinking. If we're going to be safe. I'm okay with any one of Alt, Fashanu, Latham at 10. I would say Fuaga, lukewarm. Fatanu, very lukewarm. I was not very impressed with watching Odunze. If it's Fashanu, Latham, thumbs up for me. I definitely prefer Latham over Fashanu. So that's one side of thinking. If they're gonna be safe. Okay, stay at 10. Now, if the Jets are trying to be ballsy, which it seems like they are being ballsy, I know DJ put it out there. I think I put it out there before. Obviously, who gives a shit about me? He has however many followers or whatever. But I think I put it on Twitter like probably 2 weeks ago. I am in the camp right now. If I had decided that line, and we'll talk about what the trade compensation would be, probably next year's second, maybe like this year's fourth or fifth, or maybe even a third. I don't know. I am in the camp of trading up. Now, with that being said, where do we have to trade up to? I want to get at least one of Harrison Jr.'s or neighbors. That's my goal for this draft now. That's where I'm leaning. Now, if you have to trade up to 4, which is, I believe, the Cardinals, it would probably cost a lot because they're probably looking to trade back with a team who wants a quarterback now, whether that be the Vikings or the Giants, like jumping up for JJ McCarthy or whatever it may be. 4 is really a wild card, but in the top 4 or 5 picks, I expect there to be 4 quarterbacks and a receiver, at least based on what we're hearing now. So I would say the lowest or the lowest you want to get is 6, which is 6. I forget who's 6 pick in the draft. Someone will tell me, but get up to at least 6. And get Neighbors. I do think there's quite a talent gap difference between Neighbors and Odunze, and considering Odunze's a little bit of redundancy with the skill sets we have now, and I think Neighbors can win from anywhere, whether it be Z, X slot, he can win anywhere. I really, really like him as a prospect. I think in most drafts he's probably the first receiver or going off the board. So trading up and securing a guy who can make a huge impact. Now, I get wanting to get depth and all that stuff, but again, what is that piece that may push you over the edge? A tackle who's most likely not going to play, at least in the Super Bowl, and a round 2 receiver, or do we want to make a splash for Neighbors, who I think is going to be a stud, or Harrison Jr. if we want to get really, really ballsy, trade up for Harrison Jr. That's next level. But I'm not even thinking about maybe Harrison Jr. because that might be 4. Neighbors might be 6. The difference in picks, that could be quite considerable between 6 and 4. But trading up for Neighbors right now is kind of where I'm sitting. Trade up for Neighbors or draft Latham at 10. That's where I'm at. Bowers, Odunze, okay, again, kind of like lukewarm to me, but let's see. Swolsey says, where's Kyle? Swolsey has not watched in quite a few weeks. Kyle's been gone since after the Chargers game, I think. Was it like October? Late October, November? Kyle's just busy. Kyle's busy in his work life, so doesn't have time for it necessarily. Harold says, how do you know draft analyst has not watched film when he says Brock Bowers is the best route runner in the draft, regardless of position? Yeah, Harold, that is just false. Like there are certain things I'll give wiggle room to. Like, okay, you like Fashanu over Latham because of whatever reasons. Okay, like I am completely with you. People can have differences of opinions. People will like Fuaga over Latham. Okay, fine. But then there's things that are just objectively false. This is one of those things. There's just no way. There's just absolutely no way he's better than Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. as a route runner. Neighbors is a pretty damn good route runner. So yeah, this is where you unsubscribe or you click off of that website when they say that type of stuff. It's crazy. Mike Williams and Tyron Smith since last stream show. How you feeling? Yeah, I kind of just talked about it before. It's exciting, and I'll get into, I guess, each of the signings kind of more individually. But you're talking about a top 5 left tackle in the game when he's healthy, and hopefully the Jets. I realize what I'm saying. Hopefully the Jets can figure out a plan to keep him healthy, skip the Tuesday, Wednesday practice, only practice Thursday, Friday, every other day in the off season, have a maintenance game, like, hey, every 4 weeks you play, even if you're healthy for that 5th game, let's sit you down. Let's get you some rest that week, whatever the hell it's going to be. We need him healthy for the playoffs. We need him healthy enough games in the regular season to get to the playoffs, but then we need him healthy in the playoffs. So you have to manage him. And then same thing with Mike Williams, get him back slow. I do think there's an emphasis on receiver 3 right now, because of, obviously Mike Williams' injury history, his most recent injury. And then past that, just being again, transparent here, is the Jets have really, and I get we all kind of have a connection to these guys because of offseason or whatever, game-winning punt returns. Every single person on the Jets roster other than Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams are just Jags. Sorry. So who was your 3? Who was your 4? I think Lazard's gonna be at least a top 4 option. Gibson's probably your 5, and maybe Brownlee your 6, whatever it may be, but you need a 3. Doesn't have to be, a round 1 guy. Could be a round 3 guy. Could be Reynolds. It could be a DJ Chark. It could be somebody, but they need something at 3, in my opinion. Is Friday the new stream day? No more Thursdays. Yeah, Swolesy, at least for now, it's Fridays. It just works out easier with my wife's schedule, where now we have a kid, so I can't just say, yeah, I'm going to lock myself in the room and do a podcast. I need her to be home to take care of the baby. So yeah, Fridays. JD is a Cap fanatic. I'm sure Brock wouldn't be a value on a rookie deal. JD doesn't overpay positions. Ricky says, I want the Jets to get an F for their first round pick for Shanu Fatanu Fuaga. I'm okay with Fatanu or Fuaga in a trade down. Again, Fuaga at 10, very just like a C+ draft pick for me. But throw Latham into there, Richie. Don't believe the stuff about that Michigan game. It was one bad play. And it's quite explainable, that play, in terms of why it was bad. It's not as bad as people think it was. Minus 1 play, 2 plays in that game, he's actually a stud. So, Mike, what's up? Hope things are good. Joe, I'm not a Bowers guy. I think Kittle comps are overblown. More recently heard of Juszczyk as a comp who's great himself, but also not a first-round commodity. Yeah, so I kind of just got into this, Mike, and I got into this in recent weeks. I'm not sure if you have been watching recently, but you can go on my Twitter, JoeRB31, and just look up Bowers and Kelsey in the same tweet, and I kind of put out a thread of him just not catching balls contested. So I have some concern with him. Again, a lot of free releases. There's a lot more nuance and route running that he needs. Now it looks like he gets out of breaks really, really well because he's athletic. He's more athletic than everybody's playing against in college. And those guys aren't technically as savvy and good as veterans in the NFL. So there are some instances where, he creates separation, but he didn't stem it right. He didn't set it up right. His footwork was bad. It was rounded, whatever it may be. So his route running is actually pretty raw. But when you look at it, it looks like he's getting out of him fast, which at the college level he is. But NFL level, you need to be more than just fast. And then, like I said, in contested catches, I think I had him probably 2 for 10. At best, 2 for 10. And some people online were like, oh, this is an overthrown ball. Again, there's just so much stupid shit on Twitter. I rarely respond to it because I'm not getting into a fight with, Mike 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because there's no point. But Bauer's ball tracking ability is pretty bad too. I have a play in one of the first plays of him, which you can say it's an overthrow, it's just not. In terms of ball tracking, let's say you're running 95, let's say you're running 100%. That quarterback may anticipate you running 95% looking back for the ball, but he's anticipating you running the same speed. Bowers will be running 100%, look back for the ball, slow down to 50, and then the ball is a yard over his head, and people are like, oh, bad ball. No, he slowed down from 100 to 50. How is that fair for the quarterback? They expect you to maintain your speed, at least somewhat maintain your speed. So when you completely gear down and look for the ball, it's going to look like it's an overthrow or overthrown ball, but he struggles with ball tracking as well. So he's kind of and then on top of all of that, sorry, but he can't block in line right now. He's 245, and I saw got blown up versus guys at lesser schools, so he not sure about him in press. He can't contested catch. He's raw as a route runner right now. He can't block in line. He can block in space. He can block linebackers. He can block safeties. Okay, cool. But that's a lot of stuff that I'm talking about, and like it's quite evident on his film if you actually watch him. That again, lukewarm at 10. Like, okay, well, I'll take it, but. Sorry, I don't know what "are we good now" means, Jan, but we're always good. We're always good. I appreciate the super chat. I have no idea what that's in reference to. I talk to my computer screen with hundreds of you people every week, and I forget a lot of things I say or a lot of people who I can interact with. But okay, Joe Blewett, really big shoe. All right, is Clowney happening? I'm not sure if Clowney's happening. I doubted Clowney would ever sign on the dotted line, right now, because he's the type of dude who will wait for camp, wait for injuries, and get as much money as he possibly can. So I'm not so sure about Clowney. And if it does happen, I don't think it would happen now anyway. Could be wrong there, but just following his career, he's a guy who typically signs pretty late into the offseason. So Harlan says, hit the like button. Real says, hell yeah, I'm glad I'm catching you live. I'm glad you're here as well, Real. I don't know if I've seen your name in here, so that's nice to see new people. Cayuga Lake. Let's see. Tyron has played in more games than Becton in the last 4 years. Oh yeah. Well, Becton missed 5 or 6 games in his first year, and then 2 seasons after that. So of course, Ben says, oh wow, Ben, catch them CYJ podcast. Michael Nani and Ben Bussington. I should be going on there. I don't know if it's gonna be this Sunday or next Sunday or whatever it's gonna be, but next week or two, I'll jump on with the Cool Your Jets podcast guys. Obviously, Nania being here last week, and Ben being here this week. Joe, who has better release versus press coverage, me or Nania? Also, when are you doing CYJ next? Yeah, so CYJ again next week or this week. Ben, I would answer this, but the problem is that you gloated the one time where I was, again, and I'm not even trying to be like that type of guy, but I don't know how many shotguns or shots I had that day, but it was quite a few. And Ben took a good 5-6 seconds to get open. He caught it. It was a nice contested catch. I'll give it to Ben, but 5-6 seconds in the NFL, unless he's Lamar Jackson, it's not going to happen. So that's a sack sandwich. And then last time he got pressed, and I was in his sight line. Like, he was not going to catch that ball. I would have played the hands. I locked him down pretty good. I jammed the absolute shit out of Nania, and Ben never said anything on the podcast. And I specifically said, like, hey, the first time you gloated about it, even though it took you 8 seconds. Second time, crickets from Ben. It's fine. I just lost a lot of respect for you, Ben. We'll do it again next year probably, but I'm getting old now. I'm 31, so I'm kind of, I'm at that range where like corners really start to fall off and stuff. So we might need to do gauntlet drills. We might need to do D tackle versus offensive guard. You still have the power. You lose the speed. But I would say Ben's quicker. Ben's quicker than Nania, at least laterally. Every player we got in free agency could get hurt for sure, but we can address all those positions with the draft as well. And this, I was talking about it last week. I was saying like B-, C+ at that point, because I really wanted a receiver still. I really wanted a tackle still, and the Jets didn't do shit at either. I would say the offseason still I would say an A-, right? I don't know if I'm being harsh there. Let's start from an A+. What brought me down from that? 1, A+ to A. Again, we have time, depth, right? We need a backup tackle. We need a running back 2. We need a safety 3. We need an interior offensive lineman. So that brings it down, a tick from, let's say, A+ to A. The Kinlaw Fatu signings bring it down from an A to A-. And we'll talk about actually, let me look up the Kinlaw contracts. I was planning on talking about this anyway, but some people were saying like kind of shitting on people, and again, I don't know why so much shit's directed at Nania, but it just is what it is. People were like, oh, everybody should just shut up. Look at the deal now, because we thought it was a 7.25 cap hit for just this year, and then it comes out and the cap number is only 2.8, and people are like, oh my god, look at that, it's so that's so great, the number is so much different than we expected, or whatever. And it's like, yeah, cool. And then you look at the freaking contract, and it's $3 million this year, which, by the way, he's going to be on the team for 2 years. It's like a 2-year deal, unless there's some June 1st bullshit, whatever. Rivka will tell me I'm wrong, I'm sure. Even though it says it's 2025 is a void year. Yeah, sorry. So it is only a 2024. It is only a 1-year deal. So it's a 1-year deal for, let's just say, $2.8 million, and then after that, so you're getting him for, let's just say, 3 flat. That's easy. 3 flat. this year, 4.4 for nothing next year. And then after that, it says that there's $3 million, 3.3 dead, 2.2 dead, 1.1 dead. So Rivka, this is something I would like you to explain to me. Like, at the end of the day, what are we paying him at the end of the contract? Because to me, that looks like it's 2.8 million this year. Let's just say 3, 4 next year. So that's 7 total, right? And then you have another 3.3. Let's just say that's 10, and then another 2. That's 12, and then another 1.1. That looks like a 1-year, $13 million contract in terms of like just pushing dead money down into the future. Now, it could be wrong, all that stuff, but just because they're spreading out the cap hit doesn't mean it's a good contract. Paying $7 million for him is honestly quite terrible. And then on top of that, and this is another thing that pissed me off about the offseason. And again, this is a time to celebrate. This is a good time. I'm always going to be transparent. If it's true that Quentin Jefferson, and I don't know what his actual contract was, Samini, I believe, reported it was 1 year, 3.6. I think Nani, kind of said it in Slack or wherever else that he's not sure if that's just his cap number of last year, whatever it may be for the whatever team he signed. Did he sign with the Browns? I think it was the Browns. We're not sure if that's his new cap number or if that's his cap number from last year, but apparently Quentin Jefferson gave the Jets a chance to match the Browns and would have came back. But the Jets didn't answer the phone in time. And you're talking about a player who I think is, let's say it should be polar opposite. Kinlaw should have got a $3.6 million deal, and Quentin Jefferson should have got the 7.2. But we don't respond to Quentin Jefferson. It's on Kinlaw. Like, what are we doing there? So I would like to know the real story of that. But that's a mark against JD right there, because if you don't have the time to respond, what are you doing? Like, is it like a collect phone, like a walled-in phone from back in the day where you don't have like call waiting, you can't text, you can't merge calls, you can't do all that shit? Like, he was on the phone with the Bears talking about a trade, and Quentin Jefferson called, but his call got ignored because he's on the line. The line was busy. Like, what happened? So the fact that Quentin Jefferson could have been here for a lesser price, or maybe even the same price as Kinlaw, we don't know the exact price. That sucks, because I like Quentin Jefferson quite a bit. Certain people said that, nobody ever expected him to play this well with the Jets this year. And, it was a surprise year and it's only because of Q. That's bullshit, because I know, at least for myself specifically, I could speak for myself last year. The review is out there. I said I was pleasantly surprised by Quentin Jefferson. I think the fans would be. I remember saying that during the review. So we were not surprised. I was not surprised that Quentin Jefferson was good. So I don't think Kinlaw can just come in and do what he did, because Quentin Jefferson was the better player in Seattle the year before he came here than Kinlaw was last year. Now, with that being said, I only watched 3 or 4 games of Kinlaw. Apparently, he really turns it on later on in the season. So we'll see. Maybe I'm going to come back in a week or 2 and say, hey guys, I watched the rest of them. The first 3 or 4 games were much different than the last 13 or 14 games. Very possible. Right now, I have no idea. I have no idea how Kinlaw got more money. It just doesn't make sense. And on top of that, we heard that Leaky Fotu, again, I've only watched 3 or 4 games. I paid attention to the Tyron Smith, Mike Williams, the bigger signings of the world before I get to the lesser guys. It's a fine contract. $2.5 million it is what it is. Now, with that being said, did I like Al Woods, 2 times better last year, 3 times better, 4 times better last year? Yeah, I did. So I don't love Fotu as a player in terms of him being like 320, 330. I think he gets moved quite a bit. There's little to no pass rush there. He has some athleticism, but it's not really like functional enough to actually make a difference. Like, yeah, he's more athletic than Al Woods, but I don't know. How do I phrase this? You need to be 50% more athletic than Al Woods to be a good pass rusher, just in terms of like being able to move. And maybe he's 20% more athletic, so it doesn't really make any like substantial impact, if that makes any sense. So do not love the interior defensive line moves. Now, being positive, Tyron Smith, awesome move. Mike Williams, 1 year up to $15 million, awesome move. The Tyron Smith contract, I'll go over the incentives for it, because I didn't write it down. I screenshotted it in my phone. So let me just do this. So he has a base. Rivka's gonna kill me. She's gonna slip my Achilles or something. I'm gonna get this wrong, but $6.5 million guaranteed. So $6.5 million. I think it's about $12 million, because like they go, I believe with contracts, they go to the expected outcome. So I think his contract right now for the Jets is 12 million 0.25, I believe. And then past, so his incentives are, and that's basically because there's 2 playtime incentives, right? So 6.5, there's 2 playtime incentives. There's one collection of playtime incentives, and then a second group of playtime incentives. The first group of playtime incentives, he is expected to reach. So 38% of the snaps from 6.5, do the math here, I'm not doing it, $75,000. 75,000. No. Yeah, 7,500. Sorry, 7,500. 44% of the offensive snaps. Another are 1.7 million. 50% of the snaps. 2.75 million. 56. 3.75. 62. 4.75. 68. 5.75. I think last year he played about 72% of the snaps. So that's probably what they're going on. So you're looking at that 6.5 plus 5.75. Okay. You're expecting him to do that. And then, hey, if you're paying him, then the next set of tiers is 74%. He's getting another $1.25 million. If it's 80%, it's 2.5. If it's 86% of the snaps, it's 3.75. If it's 92, it's 5 mil. If it's 98, it's 6. So then you're talking about, $11 million on top of the 6 he's making. Now we're at 17. And then you also have 2,500 for every playoff win. So the Jets are going to win 3 games. It's going to be the first seed. So that's $75,000, and then $500K for the Pro Bowl. So you're anticipating him probably, hopefully making $20 million. But if not, the Jets win a playoff game or 2. He's playing like 75% of the reps. You're going to be paying him $12 to $14 million a year for a fucking stud. Like, hell of a contract for Joe Douglas there. Mike Williams, we haven't seen the exact price of what he's getting paid. It's 1 year, $15 million. But that's with incentives. I'm assuming it's playtime, yards, playoffs, whatever it may be. Is Mike Williams healthy or even healthy for 13, 14 games worth $15 million? Yes, he is. You have Lazard making $11 million. You had Corey Davis at $11-ish million. You have Calvin Ridley at 22, whatever he's at. You have Kirk at 18. You got Judy got like a $20 million contract, $20 million a year contract extension. Like, what are we talking about? So Mike Williams is definitely worth that price. A fun player. There's some times where, and it is what it is. It's kind of hard to say lack of effort. There's some times where it looks like he gears down a little bit. There's some times where he comes off the line. It looks really, really explosive and fast. There's times where he doesn't, but for his size, 6'4", I think he's like 220, really good contested catcher, elite ball tracking skills, just like Odunze. He has some burst off the line. He has ability to stack guys pretty well. He actually has pretty good acceleration for his size. He has pretty good burst for his size. There is some rawness in terms of his route running. I want to see him use his physicality more in his route running. I want to see him, commit to his break steps a little bit more. There are some things I want out of him. He's not going to change now. He's 29, going to be 30 this season. But overall, he's a good 2. And he is specifically a really good receiver for this offense just because, and I'm not like a jump ball red zone guy. I'm more of like a jump ball scramble drill, oh shit guy. Or just matchup guy. Like if you have a situation where, let's say, the Jets were playing the Jets here and Sauce was on Garrett Wilson and DJ Reed was on Mike Williams. Well, guess what? Rodgers is in trouble. Guess where he's going? If it's a man look, he's just going to chuck the ball up to Mike Williams, and he has that ability where if he doesn't catch it, it's very few and far between where the DB does. So, and that's exactly the type of player Rodgers is. Rodgers is a quick cerebral player, get the ball out immediately, or the ball is going vertical 40 yards, 50 yards. Garrett Wilson can win quick. Mike Williams can win deep. It's a really, really, really good signing in terms of the type of player they needed. Garrett Wilson, I think his biggest weakness right now in the NFL is contested catches. I'm almost all the way through his review. And he had quite a few missed contested catches this year. So to have that guy add him to the offense is massive. So that's really exciting. And then with Tyron Smith, the one thing I want to mention too is it really is like a force multiplier, which I love for John Simpson. It makes him more impactful. Like you add, like with the Jets offensive line right now, you have elite left tackle, elite. He's still elite when he's on the field, which is hopefully 13, 14, hopefully 20 games this year, but let's just say 14, 15 games. Okay. Elite tackle. Your left guard, I think John Simpson is probably slightly below average, which I think is fine. I'll be honest, going throughout the film and continuing to progress. I think I watched like his game 4, 5, 6 today, and I'm working on him and Moses. His hand placement is starting to get better throughout the year, so maybe I'll be a little bit more higher on him. But if your worst offensive lineman is average to slightly below average, that's a good offensive line. Your center, Tippmann, was about average last year. You're expecting him to be solid this year at the minimum. AVT, when he's healthy, is a Pro Bowl level guard, if not an All-Pro level guard. Morgan Moses, he got better since he left. He is I called him just above average last week, or slightly above average, or just average, whatever I said. He is solid, like lock solid. I'm not going to say he's an absolute stud, but I would say, average is what, like, anywhere from like 14 to the 18th best tackle. I think you'd probably, if I had to go through an entire list and watch all these guys, I would say he's floating around that top 10 of right tackles right now when he's healthy. I'm extremely impressed by him. He's a little bit, he struggles a little bit with like movement. Some guys will get around the arc on him and stuff like that, and not the best in space. But as Nani and I talked about, I think the Jets would be fools at this point to not run more power, counter, gap running scheme, because all three of them, honestly, all the three new additions. John Simpson is much better duos, combos, vertical climbs, down blocks, that type of deal. So is Morgan Moses, which is obviously more conducive to a gap scheme. Same thing with Tyron Smith. If Tyron Smith struggles one place, it's ducking his head and scooping low in the run game. And we're on an island with a guy that can make more of an impact. I think Tyron Smith is a better power guy as well. I don't think he's the best, or in terms of maximizing his run capabilities. I don't think it's zone scheme either. So that's another point in terms of bringing on Tyron Smith. It's only going to make John Simpson that much better. He's going to look a lot better next to Tyron Smith than he's going to look to Mekhi Becton. So great for multiple reasons. Dakota said sign Clowney. I'm with it. Clowney would be great, but we need to hit on 10th overall. I'm in the range right now where I'm cool with trading up. Like, that's what I want. Draft 1 month from Thursday. Yeah, that's why I got to start doing like 2 or 3 draft reviews every single day that I'm off, which next week I'm off 3 days. I plan on doing Bowers. No, I am. I was actually going to do 4, but I'm doing Fashanu first day, Bowers, and then Latham. So starting next week, you'll start getting the film reviews. And the evidence is out there if you want to watch it. So Fuaga or Latham for the versatility at right tackle and guard. Yeah, sure, but my problem is, like, Latham's never played guard, at least in my mind, or to my knowledge. So could he? Sure. Do you want to mess around with him and be playing in guard and tackle in his first year? Probably not. I don't know. What's up to NY Jets Surfam? The Freedom House says Latham is so strong he'd be great long term. I like Latham a lot, man. This might sound crazy to people, and which is kind of absurd, really, because it sounds crazy because people just parrot other people's opinions. I'm not saying you guys do, but this is why I think it sounds crazy typically, because nobody's going to go out there on a limb. For the Jets, if they are running more gap scheme principles, Latham is my tackle 1. Sounds crazy? Sure, it might. Alt, it needs more work than people realize he does. And there's that video of him going around on Twitter the other day about like how low he gets in his anchor. And it just proved my point. You go back and watch that video. Look how extended he is. If guys can get under him in that position, he's fucked. So there's really a lot of his game. A lot of offensive linemen is lift, the flex force lift. He's a lot of push, and that does not work at the NFL level. So he is going to have some anchor problems in year 1 until he gets stronger, in my opinion. So I like Alt. I think overall he's my favorite tackle. In a vacuum, my favorite tackle. For a gap power counter scheme, it's Latham. Latham is not athletic enough. Yeah, I don't agree there. I don't. Guys wanting Bowers or wide receiver in first are playing fantasy football, not team building. Yeah, it's just, and I get that, Sluggo. It's just about what maximizes your chance of winning a Super Bowl. Again, and we're talking about ideal situations here. I get it. And that's the part of the fantasy football thing. But Latham on the bench, in the Super Bowl, or Malik Neighbors lining up with Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams on the outside. So I understand it. Latham is my guy at 10 besides any of the top 3-4 receivers. Yeah, if Neighbors is there. I don't think he's going to be there. Would you take Fitano at 16? It honestly depends, Rivka, and how I am with this stuff. Like, I would want to watch him versus Guyton versus Mims versus, whoever else to maybe determine that. But in general, would I be okay with him at 16? Yeah, because then you're obviously going to get like a second round pick to trade down 6 spots, whatever it's going to be. So you're talking about Fitano and a receiver in the second round. Okay, I can stomach that. I'm not happy with the Fitanos, Fuagas, that type of guys, those type of guys, like developmental type prospects, in my opinion, at 10. when we didn't have Smith because we knew that we were going to rely on that guy for the entire season. Now with Smith, you're going to rely on him for 3 or 4 games this season, but you could live with that. You could overcome 3 or 4 games scheming, whatever it may be. But now considering the Jets have 2 tackles, I'm more okay with them trading down and taking a developmental tackle. And now your round 3 receiver who might have been just okay could be now a round 2 receiver who could be a stud in year 1. Like you could find some stud receivers in round 2, even round 3, but obviously, round 2, you get the more studly of the studs. So yeah, I'm okay with it. But I'm more like, I'm okay with trading down. I'm more of like, just take freaking Latham at 10 or trade up for Neighbors. Like that's really where I am right now. So I would not rule out to edge at 10. I honestly wouldn't rule. This is something that I thought about the other day. I wouldn't rule out the Jets trading down to 19, 20, 21. This is not me saying I would do this. This is me saying I could see the Jets doing this. I could see the Jets taking freaking what's the D tackle from Texas? Is it Sweat or I don't know what his name is. I could see the Jets doing that. Would I want that? No. But if you got an absolute stud D tackle next to Q, it would be great for the defense because we don't have one. I think Kinlaw is a backup level player. I think Fotu is a barely rosterable player, or barely rosterable player, to be honest. And Solomon Thomas might be your best D tackle next to Q right now. Solomon Thomas had 5 or 6 sacks last year. Right now, in a vacuum, I'm taking him over Kinlaw for 1 rep, so there's a real scenario where he gets a 10. I doubt it, honestly, Mike, but it's just because I've watched him. And I don't see how he gets to 10, man. He's good. He's good. If he's great. Report from Jordan Renan of ESPN was the Giants are more likely to trade down than trade up. If you can get to 6, Neighbors will probably. Yeah, right. Because you're anticipating 4 quarterbacks, Marvin Harrison Jr., right? So if you can get to 6, would you guys trade up to 6? I don't know. Maybe I should do a poll. Or Rivka, you're not on the Jets. I don't know if you're a what is it called? Like a manager of the JetX account or whatever, Rivka. But if you could put up a poll, that'd be great. 10 and our second round pick next year to get to 6. Would you do it? Justin Simmons over Clowney. If you could choose 1 for 1, yeah, I'm with you. Does Justin Simmons make more than Clowney? In my opinion, yes, probably. Even though the safety market has dwindled a little bit, 1 for 1, yeah, Simmons is going to make a bigger impact because you're talking about the difference in Simmons and Adams versus Clowney and JFM, which Clowney might be just as good, if not a little bit better, if not a little bit worse than JFM. So Neighbors especially. Yeah, I like Neighbors a lot. Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. would give the Jets easily the best receiver trio in the NFL. Who's the only team I would say is who's the Dolphins 3? Who is their 3? Because Hill over Garrett Wilson right now, Waddle over Williams right now. So who depending on that, but yeah, 1 or 2. Odunze, Neighbors is a stud. Neighbors is a stud, not going to be a stud. Oh, like he is right now. Yeah, I like him a lot, and I am pretty nitpicky on receivers, and I like him quite a bit. 2 to 3 year window you push now, trade up is where I'm at too. Yeah, I get the long-term build thing, Swolesy. But again, maximizing your opportunity for the Super Bowl window in my mind, and like this isn't proper and this isn't team building, and I'm glad I'm not the GM, but like we're kind of fucked in 2026, 2027, 2028 anyway, right? Like it is a second round pick going to make a difference? And would a second round pick have made a difference from 2012 to 2023? No, not really. Like we were going to suck regardless. So I'm at the point now where like, hey, we got Rodgers for a year or 2, maybe 3. I know he said 3 or 4 years. It's probably a year or 2 realistically. Push all the chips in, and it's not just a trade up to trade up. Like if I felt like there wasn't that much of a gap between Neighbors and Odunze, I would say no. But I think there's a quite a large gap between those players. I think Odunze is just like a solid like thumbs up pick to me. Okay, lukewarm C+. I'm fine with it, but I liked Wilson more. I liked Drake London more. Odunze has stupid contested catch ability. Stupid. It's ridiculous how good he is at contested catches. That's also indicative of you not creating a lot of separation in college if you win all the time like that, which is true with him. I would be fine with it. But I don't love the prospect. I don't love him. And part of the reason with him too is that like I think people love Odunze is because what makes great highlight films? Yak, contested catches. Bowers, Yak, Odunze, contested catches. You're never going to get a guy who's like a technician or route runner and be like, oh, look at this really sick, secondary release. Like that doesn't happen. It's not easy to process that for casuals. So a lot of people love Odunze, but I just don't see it. No amount of flowery words gets me past his tape. His releases, John, that's my problem. He has little to no release game. It's concerning. So to me, Odunze could be really good because of his contested or crazy catch radius, but he could also really, he's a little bit boomer bust to me. He is going to already have elite contested catch ability. I don't think that's going to change. It's just, he's too good at it. But you can't necessarily just rely on the NFL because the NFL corners are good too, so, I think he could be great. He's smooth. He has good speed, good acceleration, really good body control. He could be awesome. Like there are plenty of guys with his frame, AJ Green, like a similar build, they could be really successful, but you need a lot more, so, okay, I'll keep going down. Which big time draft analyst is most in the film, in your opinion? Zebo, I don't know. I honestly don't know because I would say DJ this year I would say I've soured on him a little bit. Just looking at some of his reviews or what he says about players, I just vehemently disagree with. Again, I think there's some wiggle room, but some things are just false. To say that Odunze has a like cascade of really good releases is just wrong. I've seen him really like cleanly win at the line like under 10 times. A lot of times he's getting bowed out to the sideline and the quarterback just throws it up and he makes a ridiculous catch. But in terms of like him roasting guys off the line, to write that in a scouting report, I just didn't see it. So I don't know if he watches as much as he, maybe initially he doesn't, and then he goes on and watches later down the road. But I honestly don't know. I'm not even just saying that. I don't know. I really don't trust anybody. Because I've just been proven wrong quite a bit in terms of like people I trust somebody, and then I look at what they're saying. Again, I think there's a certain point where you can like have some wiggle room and disagree on a player. And I think there's just things when you really, really watch a guy and you watch 15 of his games in that year, and you see somebody say something, and you're like, nope, they didn't watch. At least they didn't watch enough. They might have watched the highlights. They might have, and there are people out there who will go and they'll sort plays out and say, okay, every time Odunze won a route, I want to watch. And then you watch him 20 times in a row of him winning a route. Yeah, you're going to get all the good stuff. What about the 25, 50 plays in between where he wasn't winning? So when I watch reviews, I watch him every single play of their season. I might get lazy at times, like skip a run play. If he's on the right side and they run to the left, I might skip it, because who cares? He's not going to be involved in the block. But past that, every single time they run a route or on the field, I watch every single prospect that I'm talking to you guys about. So Odunze, late first round grade for me. I realize he's a 9.9. Yeah, Joe, is there any other? Yeah, Rivka, I'm not even just like, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm trying to think of people. Like, and there's people I trust, like Brandon Thorne. Like, I think Brandon Thorne's smart with the offensive line, but he also absolutely adored Evan Neal, and I don't see how he saw that. I just don't see how you could be that different on a player. And still really, really, really trust a guy. Because if I thought he was a 4th round player and he thought he was the second best player in the draft, there's a disconnect somewhere in how we see it. So DJ, him, I would say like, okay, I'll definitely consider it. Yeah, I don't know. That's it. That's it. Brian Thomas Jr., I saw him in passing when I was watching Neighbors. I'm impressed. Was he like 6'4"? You can tell he's a stud athletically. So I'll be okay with him in a trade down. I might even be okay with him at 10 after I watch him. But I was pleasantly surprised while watching him because I didn't know. I'm not a draft guy. So watching him and just seeing this guy pop up over and over and over again, like, oh shit, okay, this guy might be good too. So congratulations, Joe, on your child. Yeah, it's getting awesome now. My son, he's at the point where, parents, you guys know, people who don't, but he's starting to like now react to me. So like if I make sounds and shit, like he starts to laugh. It's awesome. So why is everyone so lukewarm on Latham? I didn't even hear his name mentioned, not just from Jets fans, but from the national analyst. Rivka, you know the reason. It's because 80% of college football Twitter, 90% of college football Twitter, and then the guys, who are NFL fans sat down and they watched Alabama, Michigan. He blew up the last play, and that was people's opinions. You know what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's because of one play that they watched. In conjunction with he's big, Becton bad, Latham bad. Seriously. That's it. Like that's like the monkey in the brain type deal. That the monkey in the brain can process that. Like it doesn't take a lot to say Latham bad play bad. I saw one bad play, he bad. That's all it is. I don't know. Let's keep going through. How do you feel about the tackle from Duke? I don't know. The thing I will say is I'm not very knowledgeable in the draft because this is not my full-time job. It is a job, but it's not my full-time job. So I am prepping a lot of the free agency stuff and the Jets reviews, and I'm doing the 7 guys up top. Past that, I don't really know a lot, transparently. And then I will review everybody we draft. I'll review the 7 players the Jets get. I'll tell you exactly my feelings on them. No pulled punches. I'll do a 2 or 3 UDFAs, and then we'll go from there. Round 1, I'm always doing with my buddies. I might be live. Maybe we'll do, I think we did it last year, like rounds 2 and 3. If you guys want to do a live stream for rounds 2 and 3, I know like Ryan does it. I'm sure like Tyson from Let's Talk Jets does it or whoever else. But even if it's like 10 of us, I don't give a shit. Everybody else can go there. But if I have 10 of you guys, I'll do it. So if you guys want to stream round 2, round 3, I might do it. You see Latham with left tackle ability. I'd sign Bakhtiari for left tackle and Latham guard and right tackle. Yeah, I think he could be left tackle. I don't see any problem with it. Now, he's never really played it, at least at a high level, so you'd give him some wiggle room in terms of struggling, out of the gate a little bit more. But yeah, I think he'd be a fine left tackle. I would be fine with Bakhtiari too. Like now, it depends on the price. You'd hope it's heavily late incentive laden, but if it's like, hey, 1 year, $4 million, and for every game you play, you get $250. Okay, like fine. Like do that. Like I'm okay with having Bakhtiari as a backup tackle. I am. Now that's admittedly me knowing none of the medicals. So Stan. This is my colleague, Stan. I don't know. Yeah, it's Wojciech. It doesn't matter. People know my name, right? Like people know my profession. But what's up, Stan? I mean, are the Jets good now? They should be good, right? Like if they're healthy, they're good. Jan, which I'm excited to see you next year. I'm excited to actually go. Like I cannot wait to go back to week, like just rewind and go to all these games and shit. I'm so excited to see people in the parking lot and tailgate and all that. I got to figure out exactly which game I'm going to, away game. Right now, I'm kind of leaning towards Minnesota. Transparently, I just bought quite an expensive purchase in terms of what's in my driveway right now. So I don't know if I should be trying to poke my wife in terms of like, hey, I want a ceramic wrap. I want a film protection on the front of the hood. I want this shit under this. I just bought a pressure washer. I just bought a bunch of shit for the truck. I don't know if I could pull off, hey, I'm going to Minnesota too. So I might be driving to Pittsburgh this year. At the bare minimum, I think the dream is London. Mid-level dream, mid-level, Minnesota. Minimum, I'm doing Pittsburgh. Maybe the maximum dream is Minnesota and Pittsburgh. So I could just drive to Pittsburgh like the night before. Kind of depends. You think Joe Douglas will resign Hardman? I don't think so. I would give Clowney an incentive laden. Yeah, obviously, if we could give everybody incentive laden contracts, like that's great. Hey, we'll sign you for $1 million. When you do good stuff, we'll give you more millions of dollars. That's the most ideal thing. But yeah, so yes, Joe, let's go. Rivka, I was impressed with your show the other night with Nanya. Yeah, listen to Rivka, listen to Nanya. Rivka is very like she's very like factually based. Like Rivka doesn't pull bullshit, and Rivka asks questions, and Rivka does her research. I'm glad we got Rivka. I like that we have her. Andrew Yale, Joe, hope all is well, man. Yeah, I'm good over here. Why did we not see Kuntz end of last year, Jake? Because he's uber raw. Do you remember like after he was drafted, there was these analysts out there like putting up highlight tapes of him and saying how good he was going to be and stuff. He is absurdly raw, Jake. Absurdly raw, and he's contested catches for being 7'8". However many pounds he weighs, but 7'8" guy, he cannot contest a catch for shit. Like he is not physical at all. So I don't know. Crazy how no one is talking about Christian. And again, I'm the asshole. I'll be the asshole. There are like 3, 4, 5, 10 draft guys who everybody parrots their opinions off of. Nobody wants to be different. Everybody just says the same thing. It happens all the time. Latham had a bad play versus Michigan. Okay, sweet. Marcus Coleman and Joe Blewett covering Nani and Blessington for charity. We win. Coleman's in good shape still. Can you see us bring in a vet running back and who? Let's look up who they are. I'm going to talk about some of the needs in terms of like the Jets and what I want to see them address still. And obviously some of this can be covered in the draft, but free agents, NFL. We went over this last week, I believe, but let me just see. I think Spot Track is the best for this. I'll share the screen real quick, I guess. Studio and present my screen. Share it. Spot Track. Okay, share this. All right, so we are going to go running back update. Let's see what we can get. And a lot of the names are going to be name value, right? Like I'm going to say, okay, this guy. But I can watch him, and again, I can completely take that back. Zeke, not a bad option. He's actually a really good option. I don't think he was bad last year with the Pats, but in terms of what do the Jets need, in my opinion, a short yardage back, and maybe a pass protector. That's exactly what Zeke is. He's an elite pass protector, good short yardage back. Damian Harris, Nania highlighted him in one of his articles. I'll trust him, more power scheme, that type of stuff with the Patriots. He performed well there. Okay. I would do that. J.K. Dobbins on an incentive laden deal, 1 year prove it type deal. He's coming off of an injury. I'll be okay with that. Kareem Hunt, I'm okay with that. I would say those are the names probably that I would say, any one of Hunt, Dobbins, Harris, Elliott. If Clyde Edwards-Helaire came, like, okay, fine. Again, the difference between running back 2 and 4, if he comes in and you're expecting to be the 2 and he sucks and he's the 4, okay, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. So I would say one of those guys if I had to. I didn't see a super chat. That is my fault. Let me see. This allows me to sip my coffee quickly or chug it. Oh, I did the wrong one. That was a whoopah. This is the money. All right. Big Rush says I would have given a first next year for Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't know if I'm there yet, and I could be there. I would want to watch him more. Like I've watched snippets to just make sure that he really is as good as people say he is, and in my opinion, he is. Surefire Hall of Famer. He'd probably go maybe 2. Caleb Williams still probably goes 1, but a first, I think that's probably too much, realistically. Like if you're talking about, Harrison for next year's first versus Neighbors for next year's second, I'd probably just take Neighbors for next year's second. I think Neighbors is really, really, really good as well. But Harrison Jr., like if DJ, he said only a second round pick, I don't think it would take that little to trade up to 5. It'd probably be like a second and this year's 4th, like next year's second and this year's 4th, and maybe something like another little sweetener in there. If the Jets did that, I would not be mad. I'm really teetering between trading up and getting Harrison Jr. and Neighbors, or again, just sticking and picking one of Bowers, Odunze, or one of the tackles. Teetering quite a bit on that. But I appreciate the super chat, Big Rush. Let's keep going through. Okay, I'm going down. Oh, I'm going up. Can we sign Boyd? Okay, I'm still going up. I lost my spot in the chat. Okay, here we are. I love how some fans about Tyron Smith injury when we had Becton, well, he's more healthy and most of our guys are offensive line. Yeah, it's a $7.25 million cap hit. It doesn't just spread out over a few years. Doesn't matter. Yeah, I literally don't understand contracts when it says it's a $2.7 million cap hit next year and then all the dead years, but it's really 7 point. This is why I don't even get into it. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know. It's a 1 year deal with a bunch of void years. So yeah, it's like, yeah, look, everybody, we're not paying them as much as we thought we were this year, ... until 2025, 2026, 2027. So it's a good contract because we added void years? No. 4.4 dead. Okay, yeah. The little bust thoughts on Notre Dame. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything. Can we sign Boyd already? From Stan, I don't think we have enough money to necessarily sign Boyd. Or I think they have enough money to sign Boyd. I don't think they're going to go there. Specifically if they're looking for Clowney, they're probably looking for some type of the end. I would prefer, like, instead of Boyd, would you rather have, let's go with 3 guys, right? Because let's say Boyd costs 1 year, $10 million. Let's say that's his contract. For that, you can get McGovern, let's say $2 million. You can get a backup swing tackle. Let's just say, again, I don't know who it's going to be. You trade a 7th for Kelvin Beachum. He's on a $3 or $4 million deal, whatever it is. Okay. So then you have, again, that was a bad example. I'm sure there's other tackles out there who could, like a swing tackle we can sign. So let's just say McGovern, $2 million. Swing tackle, let's go with $4 million. Let's go on the higher side. That's $6 million. Let's sign Zeke for $3 million. Would you rather have Zeke and a backup tackle and a backup guard or Boyd? Well, that's actually kind of, maybe I'm making Stan's argument for him, but I think they need to spread the money out a little bit more right now. Like they legitimately do not have a tight end 2 or at least tight end 3. They don't have a tight end 3 right now. You don't have a running back 2. You don't have receiver, 4, 5, 6, in my opinion. Maybe Gibson's one. So you don't have receiver 5 or 6. You don't have safety 3. So I don't think they're going to splurge again. Like that's another splurgy type of move. I don't see that happening. Okay. Isn't Kinlaw a 2-year deal though? 3.5 AV. No, it's not. It's next year's just a void year straight up. So, wow. I just tuned in and immediately catching strays about my route running. I don't think you expected to get jammed on you. It's okay. You just got to work on your lateral agility. We'll work on it. I'm more of a hopper than a route runner. So see me on the, hooper on the court. I suck at basketball. I do. Unless we're talking about like getting physical in the box, which everybody who sucks says, then I suck. Javon has more upside than Jefferson. Yeah, sure. And, like, I don't know, Denzel Mims has more upside than Mike Williams, but he's not Mike Williams, so sure, he has more upside. Doesn't mean anything. Dorial, what was like Odell Beckham's cousin's name? Like, remember he came in and he was doing all those like crazy workouts and shit. Like, yeah, he has more upside than Odell Beckham, but he's not Odell Beckham. So like, upside is great, but you need to you need to be on the field. He's had a 4-year career, 3 of them where he's massively injured, and this year was the first year he broke out, and he was just like okay, So sure, upside, but Jefferson is comfortably the better player at this point. So. I'm really sad to see Jefferson leave. Yeah, I'm not about it. Leaky, LOL. I think it's pronounced like Mackay, just with an L. Lakai photo. Leaky. What is it's Leaky? Leaky. Quinn Jefferson played well. It's almost return. Solomon returns on the cheap is nice surprise. I'd ever say that, but last year he's decent. Yeah. I'm with you, Swolesy. He was a solid backup last year for sure. And I'm glad that Swolesy can change his opinion. Because I think it highlights, or at least to me, it highlights something that people can't do. It's like people are they see a play, they see 2 plays, they see a game, they see 3 games, 5 games. That's the player. Like there is no change in their opinion after they see a game or 2 of a guy. Same thing happened with McGovern, or Conklin last year. Like Conklin still sucks to people, or are people starting to realize he's actually like a pretty solid receiving tight end? It's hard for people to change their opinions. So, at age of 30, Jefferson finally reached a career high in 6 sacks. Yeah, I'm not going to kill it. It's not good, though, if the Jets wanted him to return and then didn't answer the phone. That's a bad look. Wild way. Okay. I'm just trying to see. I always try to pick out like what's for me and what's not. Jen asks, is Zeke an option? I think he should be. He's exactly what the Jets need. Short yardage guy. Give him 5 to 10 carries a game, maybe 15, a game that the Jets are winning quite a bit. Give it to Zeke, or I'd really give it to Izzy at that point. I'll be so down for Zeke at this point. Very, very down for it. I hate Zeke. Wrote an article about it tomorrow. And maybe Rivka changes my mind. Maybe he's not as good in short yardage as I thought possible. Right now I would like it, but I could change it. I typically say like, hey, I have to watch this guy, so Sauce would be on Mike Williams. Reed would be on Garrett. Sauce versus Williams would be that epic matchup. Sauce wins. Sauce is the best corner in the NFL, or the second best corner in the NFL. Williams he might get him on a contested catch or 2, but he's not getting away from him on the line. Williams doesn't have that shake. Tyrod Taylor is a good number 2, total change up in pace. That's another thing too that I thought about. Actually, the Freedom House is Tyrod Taylor, and I'm going to put up a compilation of his deep balls in 2023. He throws one of the prettier deep balls I've seen in quite a few years. I've watched Bryce Petty and Greg McElroy and Mark Sanchez, so that's not saying a lot. But his deep ball is very, very legit. Mike Williams is one of the better contested catch guys in the NFL. It's a very good fit for Tyrod too. Tyrod is, and it's crazy to say this, he's the best quarterback minus Aaron Rodgers, but he's the best quarterback the Jets have had since Brett Favre, in my opinion. Like you're talking about Tyrod versus Fitz. You replace Tyrod with Fitz in 2015. Tyrod takes us farther. We're probably going to the playoffs. Last year, we win the first Pats game, right? We win the first Pats game. We win the Raiders game, in my opinion. There has to be another game in there. What other game that we shit the bed that we should have won? We're probably a 9 or 10 win team with him last year. There's definitely another game I'm thinking of. I don't know why I can't remember another one we should have won, but Raiders, Raiders, Pats. There's another one in there that I'm not able to put my finger on right now. More I think about Bryce Huff, the more I think of Bryce Huff, I have to ask, would he have had 10 sacks without our secondary? No, it helps. Like, it helps for sure. He has elite defensive linemen around him. He has an elite secondary. With that said, were all of his sacks just like hustle sacks, coverage sacks? No, like, he won pretty much immediately on all those sacks. So yes, he would be maybe slightly worse without an elite secondary, but let's not make out Huff to be a product of the Jets. Huff is doing his own deal. Like, he's a stud. Now, do his numbers diminish in Philadelphia because their secondary is not as good? Potentially. Do his numbers diminish because the Eagles potentially promised him to play 65, 70% of the reps and he's more gassed out? And on these reps, it's not going to be 3rd and 10. There's going to be reps where it's 3rd and 2, and now he can't just fire off the ball because he's going to take himself out of position, and they're just going to run a whatever inside zone right past his face, mid zone right past his face. That's possible as well. So we'll see how it goes. I can't necessarily root for Bryce Huff anymore. Once they're off the Jets, I don't want you to do well. I'm sorry. Like, and it'll ease the blow for me later. If I peak at the end of the year and Bryce Huff has 15 sacks, it's going to hurt me a little bit. So I am rooting for him to have 2 sacks and the Jets make the right decision because I'm a Jets fan. Joe, can you confirm if Garrett Wilson was worse in contested catches in 2024 than 2023? I don't know if this is something I said. I would say yes. His contested catches in 2024 were pretty bad. I know he had the touchdown reception for Tre'Davious White. Past that, it was pretty bad. Zeke ranks 2nd to last in pressure rate, 3rd to last in short yardage conversion rate. Interesting. Pressure rate, though. I've just seeing him in passing over years, the Jets playing. I always thought he was really good in pass protection. Maybe, he could have faltered. Maybe his scheme. I don't know. And then in terms of the short yardage conversion rate, I wonder in terms of that stat, like, is it situations where the Pats would only use him in short yardage situations? So, like, the people are going to stack the box versus him, not versus other people. Like, that'll happen sometime. I'm not saying this is in correlation with that stat, like, directly, but some people be like, AJ Dillon only averaged 3.4 yards per carry. And AJ and Aaron Jones averaged 4.5. Again, I'm throwing out random numbers. And it's like, yeah, like Dillon's going to average less because you give him every single 3rd and 1 goal line situation. So even if a successful play for him is 1 yard, that's a good play. But on the stat sheet, 1 yard looks like ass. Like, again, nothing like this would ever happen. But, if he had 10 carries, 10 rushes, it would look terrible. But if each one of those rushes was for 1 yard and they're all first downs, it's actually a great game. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't know. There's always a little bit deeper you could dig. Now, what is short yardage conversion rate? That seems like it's relatively simple, but who are those numbers from? I don't put it past PFF to just fuck everything up. So I don't know who does that, So, so Stan says Clyde Edwards-Helaire is good, but I think he's not as good as healthy JK. And Rivka says JK literally tore his ACL, then another surgery on the same knee, then tore his Achilles in the same leg. Yeah, he's probably not going to have the best burst, right? Trade up for who? I would say Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. I think those are the true difference makers. I personally have Marvin Harrison Jr. and Neighbors even way above like Alt or Latham. Like, I think I like Neighbors that much. I do. Even though, like I said, for the Jets, Latham's my one. People might think that's crazy. I don't. Ricky, did you see Gator do a Ricky NY? I don't know what that's about. Dude, Moses had shoulder issues. Smith hasn't finished a season in 10 years. Wallace is coming off an ACL. You're talking Williams. If any of this goes wrong, fans will hate JD. It kind of depends, right? Like, it depends on what type of fan you are. Stu, I'll just say Stu. It's are you the Monday morning quarterback, or are you the guy who's going to evaluate process over results? Right now, the process is good with what JD's doing, minus the D tackle position. If it doesn't work out, yeah, it sucks, but we understand he has to take this risk because you'd rather sign, Tyron Smith and hope it works out for $15 million a year, or sign Jonah Williams, who is going to be like average mid at best, and it still may not work out. Like, I'm okay with the big swings at this point. Rodgers, big swing. Tyron Smith, big swing. Mike Williams, big swing. Now, do the Jets maybe round out their roster to be a little bit more like safe and spread out the money? Maybe. But I'm not gonna say I hate him. I would never say that. Last year, did I hate him? Yeah. that I hate him is the first year not bringing in a real backup quarterback, a real tight end, rookie OC, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback. That was stupid team building, in my opinion. Tomlinson signing was not a good one right from the jump. Uzama was not a good signing right from the jump. There's plenty of things I could criticize him for. Last year, he sucked in the offseason. It was terrible. It was a brutal offseason from JD. This year, the process has been good. I'm not going to Monday morning quarterback him. This is fine. What he's doing is fine. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm still working on the chat. I'm 30 minutes behind. So keep going. Sco says, what's up, everybody? I haven't seen you before, but what's up? Ace Stu says, you guys kill me. I've watched this team for 50 years. Whenever we were good, we had a stud O-line and D-line. That's the blueprint. We didn't always have good DB, QB. Okay, I don't necessarily know who that's pointed towards. One thing I will say is just two things, and this is not necessarily towards Stewart. I guess it technically is. One, being a fan for longer doesn't mean anything. I know people, my dad's been a Giants fan for longer. He barely fucking knows that like 7 yards on first down is a good thing. Like he'll be like, oh my God, we're not throwing the ball. It's like, Dad, 7 yards, 2nd and 3 is a pretty good situation. So my dad's an idiot. I am definitely smarter than him with football, but he's older than me. So your age does not automatically make you a better football fan or a smarter football fan. So I'll say that the older people in here it's about your knowledge base. I don't give a shit about how old you are. You're older than Robert Saleh doesn't make you a better. You're smarter. Like that's stupid. That's one. Two, times are changing. You need a receiver nowadays. Receivers are getting drafted above tackles at this point. Like receivers some teams value them maybe even more. Now, to the crux of your argument, Stu, do I agree that I want offensive line, and I think offensive line, defensive line should be the core of a team? Yeah, I do. I completely agree with you. Trenches wins, but. Like, are we calling somebody stupid here for saying Neighbors over offensive line? Like, what are we doing? Are all prospects the same? Does Neighbors equal Fashanu? Like, are they the same prospect, or is Neighbors better than Fashanu? Like, there's more nuance to. I don't know. I'm older. We need offensive line. I don't. The older thing always gets me because people say that to me. It's like, oh, I'm older. Okay, so There's freaking, I have a relatively successful career. There's garbage men who are 30 years older than me. They probably rather have my job. So are they smarter than me? Probably not. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That's slightly insensitive to garbage men. They work their asses off. But you know what I'm saying? It's like age does not make you smarter than anybody. What's it take to get to 6? Could we swap in next year's 2? That's what DJ said. I think he said like from 10 to 5 would be a 2. That's some stupid bullshit chart. I don't think that's the truth. From 2 to like from 10 to 6, I would say like let's go with next year's 2nd and one of the 4th round picks, and maybe slightly sweetener to that. But I would say like a 2 and a 4 would get us up to 4 picks, and I would do that. I would do it in a 2nd for Neighbors, 100%. Again, I am teetering on just drafting Latham at 10 though, because who your tackles next year? Latham is a stud in my opinion. I really like him. I do. So Bakhtiari could be good left tackle insurance if Tyron Smith gets hurt, if Bakhtiari passes the physical. Yeah, if he does he sign later in the offseason? The Jets wait to see their tackle situation. When Bakhtiari is on the field, to my knowledge, he is still a very good tackle. So if you have to rely on him for only like 6 or 7 games, okay, like maybe that's possible. But it has to be a very low base and very high incentive contract because he's just nonstop injured, that guy. Go up to 4, get Harrison Jr. Yeah, you don't have to go up to 4 or 5. I'm assuming that the Cardinals are going to trade out of 4 with the Vikings, and then the Vikings take JJ McCarthy. That's kind of what it seems like right now. Scott Wilson says trade up for Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. win the Super Bowl. If you're not all in with his roster regime, when will it ever be? Yeah, Scott, that's where I'm leaning towards. Again, I get the thing that Stu said, get the offensive lineman. That's the smarter thinking probably, but we're already kind of swinging for the fences here with Smith, with Rodgers, with Mike Williams. Why not swing for the fences with one of these guys too? And it's not even like a swing for the it's swing for the fences in terms of moving up is more ballsy. I don't see a world where Marvin Harrison Jr. and Neighbors are not very good players. Like now, is there variability? Marvin Harrison Jr. could either be a Hall of Famer or just a very, very solid number 1. Like Neighbors has some variability too, but could I ever imagine Neighbors not being a player you're happy with starting? No, like Neighbors is good, man. I don't know. DJ Chark, I'm cool with that. Dolphins about to get OBJ. Oh, okay. Love Jets or love X Factor, but I'm done. I'm so done with the bad mouthing Jets beat reporters. More class and professionalism, please. I could give two craps who breaks news. It's dumb and overrated. It's their job though. That's what they try to do, is to break news. So when they don't really provide us any more information than the national guys, they're not really doing much. The only thing that the beat does for me is tell me like, okay, this guy went 5 for 7 and he looks maybe okay in practice, but in terms of them like breaking stories, they don't do that. And then on top of that, Thomas, and this is just me personally, I'm not speaking for the other fans out there. I don't like that the beat reporters don't necessarily, one, they don't watch the film, so they don't know what they're talking about. That's concerning to me. It's your job, but you don't know what you're watching. So that's one. Two, you don't break anything, which is your job to break stuff. Hey, Tom, do you know what Clowney's doing right now? Does Stu? Does Mike? Does Rivka? Does Henry? Does Stan? No, because we didn't get a report on it. Like, you're supposed to get reports about when they're meeting with guys, when they left, how the meeting went, all of that stuff. And then on top of that, they dunk on the Jets when they can. Like, Rich Cimini takes unnecessary shots at the Jets unnecessarily. Now, they deserve some shots, but there's some times where he takes shots at the Jets. Every single beat reporter has to say the negative before the positive with the Jets. And then on top of that, when they're actually asked to do their jobs at preseason games, half of them bitch about having to be there. When can I leave? This halftime's too long. Are we done yet? So yeah, I have a problem with him. Like, you have people who would die for Koz's job, then he consistently bitches about having to do his job. Then fucking quit if you hate your job. So, like, I'm not going to apologize. I appreciate your views and stuff, Thomas, but it's the way I feel. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think our beat reporters kind of suck ass. Sorry. I don't bring them on the show. I don't hype them up to their faces and then talk shit about them behind the back. There's a reason I don't follow them. I don't ask them to come on the show. I don't enjoy their work. I don't think they do anything. Sorry. Joe, remember when I asked you if you had watched Odunze yet because I thought he was so overrated? Yeah, I remember you asked. Yeah, I do. I think you looked into his maybe even you watched his film and you thought he was overrated. He's like a double. He's a single. He's a double. He's a fine pick. Fine pick to me. Nothing to write home about, nothing to be mad about. That's how I feel about him. You guys, the Jets trade for JJ McCarthy on the Good Morning Football. They're talking about us trading up for JJ McCarthy. That'd be brutal. So, you want a top 10 lineman to sit for a year? Yeah, that's the point. It's like, I get it. It's smart to have a guy waiting in the wings, but when you're going for it all, do you want a guy as a first round pick on the bench? You already did that with McDonald last year. Like, he played at 15%, 20% of the reps. Latham, if he comes in May, hopefully plays 0 realistically because everybody's healthy, but he's going to play what? Let's say 5 games. You're talking about, 28%, 27% of the reps versus receiver 3, who, considering Mike Williams' injury and all that stuff, may end up playing, 75% of the reps. What's more impactful? I don't know. Okay, Zoom. I'm just trying to go through. I'm at 7:00 in the chat, so you get up next year's 1 to get up to 4, in my opinion. Yeah, I think if we're talking about 4, you're probably talking about next year's 1 as well. That's why, I think you could get up to 6 and give up a 2 and a 4, and then I'm cool with that. Thomas says, no unpolished size speed guys, please. No Leggett, Johnny Wilson, no Thomas Dez. I'm not sure about those guys, those necessarily names, but is there any way we can get JC Latham in a trade back scenario and a receiver in the second? Now, yes, beloved piece. You know what I'm going to say? There's so many things that are possible in the draft. I think it's possible. Do I think, based on my film evaluation, that JC Latham should be available or will be available in a trade down if NFL teams can, are in line with my thinking? No, I don't think you get him much past 10, if even at 10. It could happen where he goes at 8 or 9 and people are like, oh shit, he went early. It's yeah, he's fucking good. So, yeah, I don't see him. I think if you get JC Latham, it's just straight up at 10. Now, it's possible. How far are you trading down? Receiver in the second, so you're talking about at least a second round pick, so probably 5-6 picks. Could Latham be there at 15, 16? Yes. In my personal opinion, do I think he should be? No. Rob, what's your full-time job? I am a police officer. Some people hate that. Some people love that. I don't give a shit. You like it? Great. You hate it? Whatever. It's not going to impact me. Okay. I just feel O-line depth insurance gives us a better shot to win the Super Bowl than a third, fourth weapon. Garrett Wilson, Brees, Conk, Williams are going to eat this year and keep Aaron healthy. Yeah. It's just Williams. The problem with Williams is, what if Williams goes down? then you're talking about the fourth weapon, which is quite a substantial player on your team. Like that fourth weapon's a lot, you know. That third receiver and 11 personnel, teams are playing 11 personnel anywhere from like, I don't know, 60 to 75% of the time. So he's going to play 60 to 75% of the reps, where JC Latham may play 15, 20, 30, even 50. Let's say he plays half the game. Would you rather, is it more impactful to have JC Latham for 50% of the reps or Marvin Harrison Jr. or Neighbors for 75%? I get both lines of thinking. I do. I don't discredit anybody for either way of thinking. What's my channel name? Jets X Factor, Blitz. I don't know if you're talking to me. Good evening, Joe. I always enjoy your analysis. I appreciate you, my cause. Zuma, okay. Traded to Arizona. Bugatti. Bakhtiari as a backup offensive tackle is the craziest year I've ever heard. When this class resembles the 21 O-line class, you strike while the iron's hot. You take the O-lineman or future that could be a all-pro. Yeah, like I don't know. I get both lines of thinking. I understand getting the guy who's going to play more and then getting a backup swing tackle. I understand Stu's thinking, again, maybe a little bit older and really wants to build in the trenches. I'm really teetering. If I had to say one, I'm of the trade up weapon crowd because I think it's more impactful. But I get wanting to just get a guy. I'm okay with that. I'd give my left nut for Marvin Harrison Jr. Rusty Spooner says, "What's up, Joe? Hope all is well. I hope we trade down and go all O-line with our first 3 picks. First 3 picks. Who is playing safety? Who's playing receiver 3? First 2 picks, okay. Like, hey, if they really like a guy, they trade down, they get a Guyton, a Mims, whoever in the first round. The second round is a stud guard. Okay. My problem with like taking a guard that high is it's great to have depth, but at that point, Tippmann's here for a few years, right? ABT is here for another few years. You're hoping if you resign him and all that stuff. And you have Simpson here for 2 years. So where is he playing? I'm not saying like Simpson's a guy who's irreplaceable in their offensive line, but maybe a little bit too much. I would say I'm okay with drafting 2 offensive linemen overall in the draft in the first 4 rounds. In the first 2, I don't know. So Harrison. Trade back Latham, still pick up Cooper Beebe in a second. Cool with that. Dude, a trade down and getting Latham, I'm cool with it. One analyst likes Latham. You all like him. Next week, someone likes Fashanu and you all like Fashanu. Watch college games and stop listening to news or flavor of the week. Again, I'm not sure who that's directed towards and why Jets are a fan. I know you're in here enough. I don't think you think I'm basing my opinion on anybody else. I've been saying Latham as 1 or 2 since January, so I haven't changed my opinion at all. So yeah, but McConkey's legit. Would round you see getting drafted? We got the sauce. It seems like what's being said now is probably a 2nd round pick. Maybe he can fall into this into the 3rd, but probably a 2nd round pick. But Mims for Georgia, yeah, he's a physical freak. Hasn't played a lot. Can you talk a little bit about safety needs? We haven't signed Ashton Davis yet. Yeah, it's a big need, Kyle. This is something that I talked about in terms of actually let's do this. We'll go look at some free agent safeties because right now you have Clark coming off of an ACL tear. You have Adams, who's relatively unproven. I'm okay with Adams as your free safety, and I'm okay with Clark as a strong safety. I love Clark as a player, but you have to account for the fact that he tore his ACL. So what type of player he's going to be, we don't know. How quickly does he come back? We don't know. So it really emphasizes the importance of safety 3, in my opinion. Now, who? Let's look at who's available. Let's look at who's available. Okay. We're on running backs. What is this? Some soccer stuff. Okay, so let's go to safety because there's a few out there, and the safety market is buyer friendly this year in terms of some of the contracts that have been going around. So you're hoping that you can get a decent guy for a solid price here. I know there's still some guys out there who I would at least be interested in. Justin Simmons, I don't think it's going to happen, but hey, sign me up. Eddie Jackson, I don't know how he's performed in recent years. Name value, okay. Quandre Diggs, sign me up. Tracy Walker, sign me up. Hyde, sign me up. Marcus May, sign me up. Curse, sign me up. Like there's Tayshaun Gibson. You have connection with Saleh. Okay, sign me up. Like there are enough guys again, and I'm not saying like these guys are all great or anything like that, but in terms of just getting a depth guy, like I think there's quite a few names here who I would be, okay with bringing in. Again, Curse, May, Walker, Hyde, Diggs, Jackson. One of them, bring them in, and then they're your like pseudo nickel backer slash backup reserve safety. I'm definitely okay with that idea because they do need depth. Now, I would personally rely on a veteran just because I don't trust like a safety in like the 4th round or something like that. Just get a veteran, solid guy who's not going to get you killed if you're in there. You don't want to live with rookie mistakes at safety because they make a mistake, it's a touchdown. I'd rather have a guy who's just going to be okay. Rodney McLeod might be out there. I think I don't know. Joe, thoughts on Notre Dame? Yeah, Sluggo, I don't know. I'm not balls deep into the draft. I'm balls deep into the first round. I'm balls deep into the top 10. Past that, I can't help you. Speaking of people who are balls deep into the draft. I literally only do that twice so I can sip a coffee. Dom C says, "Hey Joe, if there's only enough free agent money for one, who do you want? The edge, Clowney, or safety Diggs, like Quandre Diggs." I don't know how he produced in recent years. Diggs, if Diggs is still like, in my opinion, a solid safety. Now, however you quantify solid, to me that's let's say I don't know, like free safety, strong safety, whatever. He's a top 30 safety in the league between both positions. I think that kind of quantifies solid. He's slightly above average. I think that makes more impact because right now on the defensive line, like JFM is a plus starter, right? I'm not saying he's great, or anything like that, but he's a better than average player. JJ is a better than average player. And then you have some depth there with McDonald, where at safety, you don't have a 3, you don't have a 4. Clark is coming off of an injury. And obviously Adams is still relatively unproven. If you can add a solid safety to that room, and he's not going to let anybody take the top off the defense or anything like that, I think that's probably worthwhile. Now, again, in terms of like comparing Clowney versus Diggs, it's hard. In terms of like who I actually like better if I sat down and watched them. I'm assuming that they're kind of on the same level of play. I would say Diggs, but I'm okay with either. But I would say Diggs if they're the same type of player. I think it's a good question because safety is really, really improving at this point. Again, I like Clark. I like what's his face, but it's a lot of question marks. Especially with injuries. I don't know. So, but I appreciate the question. Go check out Dom C's for his draft stuff. Seems like I see him on Twitter talking about 7th round guys and shit. I'm sure he knows about the running back from Notre Dame. I don't. Again, I just full-time job work, baby. I think I have. Let's see how many reviews do I have cooked up right now? But I'm not even getting into. I think it's like 27 right now. 27. I haven't released one yet, so I got to do a shit ton of actual like reviews, like talking about it on a camera. Which again, Bowers, Fashanu, Latham are coming out like next week, starting next week at least. I gotta walk. Thanks, Joe. Good stuff, mate. Appreciate you, Sluggo. Been seeing you here a lot recently. Dano, what is up? Yo, Joe, obviously late to the stream, but any chance we extend? I hope so. Nick asked, any chance we extend Michael Carter or Reed this offseason? If you're planning on signing Michael Carter in the future, sign him now because the contracts are just going up. You saw, I forgot the player. You saw one player get 3 years, $30 million. You just saw Tyron Johnson from the Bills get 3 years, $31 million. So yeah, sign him for 3 years, $31.1 million, and make him the highest paid slot corner in the league. He deserves it. He's a fucking really good player. And then Reed is a really solid too. His cap hit is relatively large this year. You could extend him, move some of their money around to later years. And again, you're going for it all in the next year or two. I'm okay with that. I would look to do both. I think the Jets could still extend Michael Carter. They could still they can extend Reed. I think they may be able to restructure JFM. They could restructure Q a little bit, but at the minimum, extending Reed, trying to get rid of Zach Wilson are moves that they should do for cap at the bare minimum. There's probably another one that I'm not thinking. Maybe JFM. Maybe there's more savings there than I think there is, but JFM is one you could do as well. The freedom. Yeah, I was talking about Dillon versus Jones. That was just a bad example. That was an example of a guy who I'm thinking of. Like Dillon's like a short yardage back. I'm not saying he's good as Jones. It's just an example of people like criticizing the short down yardage back for getting, the lesser yards per carry. It's like, yeah, no shit, because a one yard on 3rd and 1 is great. 1 yard on 1st and 10 is not good. So you have to look into different lenses. I don't know. So, that's not what I meant necessarily. Italian, Eddie, Ralph, any Clowney or OBJ news? No. Clowney, no news at all. And OBJ is apparently visiting the Dolphins. So, I typed this in 1992. Is that your age? I'm 93. Yeah, Mike, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I meant. Like, I'm not criticizing anybody blue collar. That is funny. I was actually having a conversation with somebody the other day about what I want with my son and all that stuff. I don't give a shit if my son fucking makes $15 an hour at 7-Eleven. If he's happy, he's happy. That's all that matters. So that wasn't a dig at anybody. It's just I don't like the arguments where it's like I'm older, I know more. Again, Mike LaFleur is like 34 years old. Does everybody who is in here, everybody in here over the age of 34, you're all smarter than Mike LaFleur? Probably not. Probably not. So, I'm not your dad. Yes, I'm smarter than Saleh. See, like, you know more football than Robert Saleh. I'm not necessarily going to bet against you, but I'm not going to put money down on you, Stu. So what's the dumbest pick you've seen projected to the Jets? I don't know, man. I feel like whatever I say here is going to offend somebody. And honestly, I don't think I've seen many dumb ones, right? Like, I would understand Odunze. I would understand Bowers. I get it. I would say that I guess some of the dumber ones now, people seem to ride waves of like a guy has a good combine, a guy has a good interview. Like, there's not a lot of people talking about Fatano. Like, before the combine, he was in that second tier of guys. And now if it's Fatano, everybody loves Fatano. Fatano at 10, based on what I saw, I think would probably be the worst pick out of the ones that are realistic. Fuaga, okay. Lukewarm. Odunze, lukewarm. Bowers, all right. I get it. Fatano, based off of what I watched, I would be pretty disappointed. So I guess that one. I think in general, the general draft consensus is probably too high on on Odunze. Again, ridiculous contested catchability, ridiculous ball tracking. It's crazy how good he is with the ball in the air, right? That's a standalone statement. That's true in itself. There's a lot more to the game of football, and he's lacking it. He has to learn a lot in terms of like route running and stuff like that and releases. So he could be great. So, read the beat reporters. I wish more people networked with other fan bases because we could share info content. Feel like we have any nuggets about outgoing free agents and that they don't. Yeah. I get that. Dude, you were dead on. They bring on the negative first. Thanks for saying so. Stay safe out there. It's true, man. Like, I get the Jets. Listen, like, I'm never one to praise the Jets. Like, this move's great. But it's like the Jets on Tyron Smith, and the next one's like 140 characters. It's like negative. And the last like 10 characters, like Tyron Smith is good though. It's like, dude, like, everything is just so negative lens, again. And the one that really bothers me, and I'm not afraid to say it because I called him out on it on Twitter, is the Kaz stuff and him consistently bitching about having to be at the game. Like, I know he wants to be on his couch eating Doritos and shit, but come on. There are people out there who would die for your job. Die for it. There are people who are slaves in the Congo right now building up or getting fucking batteries for iPhones, but he's bitching about fucking sitting in air conditioning, tweeting about a football game. It's like, come on, dude. So, and even if you do think that, like, that's your active mindset, like, I don't want to do this. This is a job. I got to feed my family. So he hates football. Very possible. But to actively think it's a good idea to put it on Twitter that you don't want to be there when the people who are on Twitter refreshing your page are looking for updates and who clearly care about the game. So even professionally, it doesn't make sense. So it's overall just one, it's bitching for the reason to bitch and nobody cares. And two, just shut up. It's not going to do you any favors. Nobody's going to be like, yeah, I agree. We all hate this game. That's why we're watching it. Like, it's your job, dude. Sorry. I know I offended somebody in here, but it just is what it is. That's my honest opinion. Wouldn't mind Bowers at 10. Yeah, I wouldn't mind him. I wouldn't mind him. Is Mike Williams similar to Brandon Marshall? Obviously, like, they're both contested catch guys. The one difference is I would say, well, Brandon Marshall was bigger in terms of like girth too. Mike Williams is 6'4". I think Brandon Marshall was like 6'5". I think Brandon Marshall is definitely more physically imposing. He could box you out better than Mike Williams. Mike Williams is twitchier and faster. So that's the difference. Similar play styles, but Brandon Marshall more physically imposing. Mike Williams a little bit more athletic in terms of the speed, the cuts, things like that. Watanu is a new buzz name. Personally, I don't see it in his game. Yeah, and Dom, like, you know, you could tell me because like you're in the draft world. I think that's what you do. I don't know where the jump came. It seemed like it came sometime after the draft, but it was always obviously that initially it was Alt. Everybody liked Alt. Everybody liked Fashanu. Fashanu was lock number 2. People have changed on that because maybe they've watched. The lock being 2. And if you have Fashanu, anybody who has Fashanu at 2, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I think I understand people having him too. But a few months ago, like having him cemented at 2 was crazy to me. Like not even having discourse about it was crazy. But then it was, you know, Latham and Fuaga, and Fuaga took over Latham and he was like the 3rd. And then Latham was like the distant 4. And then it was the group of Mims, Guyton, Fatanu. And then out of nowhere, it's like Fatanu as like the 2nd or 3rd best tackle. And again, I didn't do an official evaluation on him. I could tell you that I was like 4 or 5 games into Odunze when I started hearing his name a lot. So then in every few plays, I would just click on to the end zone view and I would watch Fatanu. And I think he plays wildly out of control, like wildly out of control. So I don't see it. I would not be thrilled with that pick, especially at 10. Anthony Gold, I don't know, Jimmy. X-Dom. Steve, yes, I remember. I mean, like, yeah, okay. I'm starting to stream it. Brian Thomas Jr. is a beat. Are you talking about stream the reviews? No, I'll do the actual official reviews. These are free and stuff like that. Part of hopefully people subscribe to JetX is you get the first like 5-10 minutes of the review, and then the rest is paid for. But that's what I offer to the website, putting those on there for money. So I got to do that. Is Bowers a good blocker? I need to know what my opinion is when I argue with dudes online. Jets Corp. That is hilarious. That is a good one. So in terms of like blocking, if you were to talk to somebody, I would say inline blocking. No, inline blocking, he will get tossed around by NFL DNs. He got tossed around by college DNs. I have plays of it. Now we're talking about blocking a linebacker in space, a safety in space, a corner in space. He's great there. He's great blocking in space versus guys who are similar size. You're talking about inline blocking? Absolutely not right now. Absolutely not. I did not see it really at all, unless he has like an angle on a guy where he's double team blocking and the guy's not going to engage him and he has the element of surprise and just attacking the hip. Yeah, he'll move a guy. But one-on-one zone blocking at the end, good luck. Even one-on-one blocking a outside linebacker, good luck. It's not going to happen. So Joe, sorry if you said this, but your ideal 2 picks for the draft. Also, are you live streaming after? So let's do this. Day 2, I think I'm definitely going to stream Sneakers to Boots, which like maybe that's a day where I have like a Dom on, where I'll invite Dom on and we can talk a little bit. Maybe he jumps off after 30 minutes, an hour. I don't know, just because I don't want to be on here like, I don't know this guy. 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 Like, that's not fun. But that's just me being transparent. I'm not going to lie to you guys. So maybe I'll do that. Day 1, like I said, I haven't seen my friends in quite a while, just because it's, with the baby and sickness and stuff, RSV, I'm not trying to risk it with the kids. So I think the draft's like the first time I've seen my really good friends, not on like, virtual stuff, text in like 3 months. So I know my buddies are going to come over for the first time in quite a while. I know we're going to get after it a little bit because, we have fun. We get after it. I might come on. It might be sloppy. I probably will. Like, I think last year I did it. Like, after they probably bounced at like, cause it's what, like pick 10, they'll probably be gone by like pick 20. Do I come on for the rest of it? Probably. I have the TV right here. We can have some brews together. I probably will. Sneakers and Boots. I'm not going to stream it, but I'll stream 2 and 3. I'll probably come on after round 1. I'm older and I'm an idiot. Curtis Russell, I love that. Right though, like it doesn't, there are people who are much younger than me who are much smarter than me. My brother-in-law, Danny, like he's not necessarily a dedicated kid, but he's smart. I know he's smarter than me. I'm not just older, so I'm smarter. I don't know. Cause is a damn joke. He is always miserable. Every question he always asks is negative. It's just too much negativity. Again, if it's negative because it's deservingly negative, I'm okay with that. But again, actively bitching about being at preseason game just drove me crazy. And it's not even that I follow him. It just popped up on my For You. I was like, oh my God, dude. Just nonstop bitching. Richard says, great to see you again. Love the analysis. Appreciate you, Rich, as always. Hawks in here. Fatano is like the 6th or 7th best tackle, and nobody ever talked about Fatano at 10. Maybe in streams and stuff, I've seen people on Twitter talk about Fatano at 10 for sure. I would say far away. I would be pretty pissed. Bowers in the first round, I would pass. I'm late. What'd I miss? Well, let me start. I'll start again. We'll go from the top, Coach. We'll go from the top, Kev Chada. Okay, so we talked about Mike Williams, talk about Tyron Smith. Again, both great signings. I'm gonna have like more in-depth film stuff on them later. I already have my opinion of them because I watched their entire last season, Mike Williams 2022 and 2023. I think I recapped them relatively well in terms of what they are, but I don't know. Talked about trade up. The one thing I wanted to mention in terms of like the needs the Jets have still, and I'll go into the rest of the chat. My needs in order right now, I would say I have about 7. Like there's 7 or there could be 8, whatever you want to say. Number 1 is receiver 3 to me. Again, I get tackle being important, but I think receiver 3, knock on wood, this year sees more time than tackle 3. And I think they're like tackle is more important than receiver to me. But again, I think receiver 3 plays 65, 70% of the reps. Tackle 3 plays max 40% of the reps. Receiver 3 to me is the number 1 need on the team right now. Tackle, swing tackle depth is number 2 in my order. I would say running back 2 is the 3rd need, in my opinion, for the Jets. They do not have anybody right now that I trust. People, Izzy. Oh, yeah, Izzy's there. He didn't prove anything. I would say my 3rd biggest need is probably safety 3. Or sorry, my 4th biggest need is safety 3. I want a depth guy there. My 5th is depth at interior offensive line. I'm hoping that's McGovern. My 6th is probably tight end. It doesn't have to be tight end 2. It could be tight end 3. I could also see them bring in tight end 2, but I think you need a tight end 2 or 3. And then I would say pass rush DN just because I know what the Jets are as my 7th need. So number 1, receiver 3. Number 2, offensive tackle 2, offensive tackle 3, swing tackle, running back 2 as my 3rd, safety 3 as my 4th, interior offensive line as my 5th, tight end depth as my 6th, and DN as 7th. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Some people may disagree. Safety a little bit higher. Okay. I initially had safety below interior offensive line, but I think you can like hold it down with Schweitzer for a game or 2. Safety 3 might be dire if Clark gets injured or something like that again. So I moved it above it. And then again, you literally don't have a backup running back right now. I know Izzy's on the roster, but it's proven nothing at this point. Nothing. Jets should pick number 1. Who should the Jets pick number 1? Latham is my choice. Latham is my pick of all the offensive linemen. Neighbors, trading up the Neighbors if you're trying to get a receiver, or trade down, or 2 and 3 probably. Chrono Kenny says, Joe, I just signed on. What do you want the Jets to do with the draft? I personally, yeah, okay. So that you just same thing Rich said. If they stick and pick at 10, like I rather personally have Latham. Latham is a better bet to me than Bowers or Odunze at 10. I rather have Latham than those guys. But if they did want to get a weapon, I'm of the mindset of go and be aggressive, go up and get Neighbors. If they don't go up and get Neighbors, let's say Neighbors is gone, let's say Latham is gone, the board doesn't fall the way you want to, whatever. I am completely okay with trading down, getting a Guyton, getting a Fatano, getting a Fuaga, getting whoever it is and you trade down, and then getting a round 2 receiver. So stick and pick Latham. Let's say my number 1 option right now is trade up for Harrison Jr. and Neighbors. Number 2 is stick and pick Latham, because I don't think Neighbors are going to be there. And then my 3rd option would be, if Latham's not available, trade down, get a later tackle and receiver. Joe's got street smarts. I'm not sure. Yes, it's talking about me being stupid. There's some street smarts in there. Joe, I was at the 85 draft when Kensel GM passed on Marino. Still have nightmares. That's why I went to the draft 1 year, Rich, at Radio City Music Hall, and I'll be honest, like it sucked, man. Like it was not fun at all. So the draft, let's say, is on April 28th. The 27th, you got to go there. At least this is how it worked when I went to the Radio City Music Hall. This was the year the Jets drafted D. Milner and Sheldon Richardson with 2 picks in the first. You got to go there the night before, wait in like a 6 to 8 hour line just to get the right to go in the next day. So you have to get like a pass to wait online the next day. So you boat there, we were drinking, whatever, wait in line for 6-7 hours. And then you go back the next day, you're waiting in line again for 3 or 4 hours for the gates to open. And then we get into the draft. You can't hear what the commissioner is saying. You're listening on a little shitty, like earpiece, tape recorder type deal. and all of the people who are like the ESPN NFL Network have like their camera set up and shit, so you can't really see the stage. So I pretty much went there to be in the same room as these guys and listen in the earbud thing. And then I had was it Gino? No, it was EJ Manuel's uncle. Almost broke my fucking elbow, dude. He's a big dude, and EJ Manuel got drafted, and his uncle was sitting in front of me, and I like reached my arm out, like it was extended, like 100% extended over the chair, so my elbow was on the chair, and he slapped my hand as hard as he could, and he like hyperextended my elbow. I thought my fucking elbow snapped in half. So yeah, I guess it was worth it to like almost get my arm broken by EJ Manuel's uncle. Like, sweet, you know, if people remember who EJ Manuel is, but. Yeah, the draft, it wasn't fun to me. Maybe they're different now. It seems a little bit more fan friendly, I would say now. But dude, like I went there not expecting what it was going to be, and in those times, 2013, I was 20 years old, so I was still in like my SoCo age, where I was mixing Dr. Pepper and SoCo, and I had it in a big gulp, and then on the bus, on the ferry over, I drank like a big gulp of that, and I'm feeling it. And then you have to wait in a line for 6 hours, and then you can't break your spot. There's no porta potties. So what do? Me, I had a group of Jets fans make a wall around me, and then I violated a corner of a wall. I'm not going to say how, because people will get mad. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. It's like, dude, I was waiting in line for 6 hours. I was not leaving my spot. So I had Jets fans create a wall, and I violated a wall. So enjoy some brews with the boys. The 2022 stream, Sloppy was a grade A material. Yeah, that one I got on. Yeah, we had a good time that night too. That was the sauce year, and I was pumped for sauce. Last year, I think I was gonna do it, and then like they drafted McDonald. I'm like, what am I even gonna say? Like why? So yeah, Snickers to boots. I'll probably be on pick 18, 20. I would say my friends are usually out of here. They work really early jobs. Like both my friends got to wake up like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So the Jets will pick by, I don't know, like 10:30. So they'll probably get out of here pretty quickly after that. I'm taking off of work the next day. Just because, I don't want to be streaming and having beers with you guys and like be rushed to go and work the next day. And then on top of that, if they trade down and draft some guys who I don't have film reviews of already, I want to start getting to the film of those guys. So 40% of the reps for a tackle, he better be high level. Yeah. Again, 40% of Latham or 75 or 70% of Neighbors, who makes a bigger impact. So. Rodgers goes down. It doesn't matter who receiver 3 is. No, that's of course true. It's true. You're not wrong. But with that being said, it's not like you can't sign a backup tackle either. To supplement and hopefully start for a few games. And let's say Smith does go down, or he does go down, and you get like a Josh Jones already signed, like a Kelvin Beachum level player. If he's your worst guy on your line, could you get over that? Yeah, you could. And it makes it easier to get over it when you have Neighbors, Garrett Wilson, and Mike Williams running routes, So both things correlate with each other. You can have a worse offensive line. You got stub receivers at the same time. So, okay, let's see. On 750, wow, you like, Uncle Rico says, wow, you like Latham over Joe Alt. In a vacuum, Joe Alt is the better prospect to me. For a power gap counter system, Latham is a better fit. Again, with Alt, I feel like I say it all the time, but he is going to struggle with power at the NFL level, both with how he takes on people with his anchor. He's not going to move people in the run game right now. People who are that tall, it's great with your length. It's also terrible for leverage. Like 6'8" is not necessarily a good thing to me. Like give me 6'5", 6'6" over 6'8", because your hips are so naturally high. It's really hard to not get bull rushed. And then on top of that, you put poor anchor technique on top of being that tall. I think he's going to get worked a little bit in terms of bull rushing and power. And then on top of that, he doesn't really move guys in the run game. So I like him. I do. For the Jets right now, I think Latham would be the better player. Just want to say real quick, TD is trash. Who is TD? I'm lost. I don't know. Joe, you don't see penalties for Latham as an issue. It's not an issue. Like there's gonna be issues with everybody. APD for sure. Like I see the anchor with Alt being an issue. I see Fashanu using pretty much the same pass set technique all the time as an issue, and he's pretty brutal in the run game as well. That's an issue. Fuaga, he gets his face crossed. That's an issue. Latham has penalties. He's not the best mover. He's a solid mover, especially for his size. Part of the penalty problem for Latham was over aggressiveness. I rather have a guy who's over aggressive than under aggressive. There's plays where you see Latham going for like 3 seconds after the whistle, hit a guy, and then the ref's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Throws a flag. So you could coach that out of him. Do I think that it's going to be, do I ever think it's going to be completely like choked off at the NFL level? No, not necessarily. Do I think it's going to be a big issue for him if he gets proper coaching? No. And people are going to say, Keith Carter? Yeah. Point taken. Touche. So it's a problem, but he tries to wrap guys up, and he tries to either, again, hit them after the whistle, or part of it is too, like, he'll start to drive a guy into the second level, and then that guy will kind of like contort his body to get Latham off of him. And instead of just unlatching his hands and just pushing the guy, reps over, Latham, even from positions where he's compromised, is working past the guy, kind of falling over, grabbing him, trying to take him to the ground. So if Latham just plays to the whistle and not after the whistle, and is a little bit more, he's not as like personally offended if a guy sheds him on the second level, he'll be fine. Stu says, I like Latham, but his lack of playing left tackle gives me huge concerns, and I don't see him as a left tackle. Lacks of flexibility and bend against good edges. That's all he'll see on the left side. Yeah, but like TJ Watt plays on the right side. Like the left side, right side is not so much different now in terms of who you're playing. It's more about the quarterback. The right-handed quarterback could see the right tackle losing more than the left tackle. So it's not about like, the more guys are athletic on the left side, because again, TJ Watt's probably the best edge rusher in the NFL right now, and he plays against the right tackle like almost exclusively, if not completely exclusively. So, Joe, you think the Jets rank Latham as high as you? You have Alt as 1, and then Latham as 2. I'm assuming. Completely agree. On only players I'm okay is Marv and Neighbors, otherwise OT. Yeah. So Chrono, Alt again he's my number 1 tackle overall for the Jets. The Jets big board, I would have Latham above Alt. So I'm hoping to see him like I do. I'm definitely hoping that, because I would be much happier with him than Fashanu, Fuaga, Fatanu at 10. That's for sure. So. Whoa, I'm a SoCo dude too. See, I'm not all bad. Southern Comfort and Coke. I gotta try Dr. Pepper. Oh yeah, really? So no, I'm not saying you're bad, Stu. I'm just very honest with people. Like, the age thing is just, it's not necessarily an argument to me, but yeah, I was a SoCo guy. I would say more so now. Like, I don't really drink a lot. I'm, it's not necessarily my thing, but if I'm going to, I'm more like, I'm a tequila guy. Yeah, I'm a tequila guy, I would say, or just like really good, like Oktoberfest type beers, ambers. I like wheats. I like German beer. So I would say beer and tequila is my type of deal now, if not, other products. So do you have any away games your eye up? Yeah, so Sneakers to Boots, I talked about this before. Sorry if you hear my dog barking. I don't know if he's just barking at the reflection in the door, which he does. But the dream is London. I don't think it's going to happen just based on the money I just spent on a truck. So I think it's more realistically going to be Minnesota. If it's not Minnesota, it's going to be Steelers. So Minnesota or Steelers will be the game that I'll be at. Yeah, you guys can hear my dog in the background based on my... Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. If possible, would you give up alcohol for 1 year? The Jets. Yes, dude. Yes, Kev. Oh, hold on. For just to make the playoffs. Like, okay. So the Jets are so like their roster is so stacked right now. Do I feel like I have to make that sacrifice? No. But in general, like, would giving up alcohol for a year be a huge deal for me? No, because there's like, very frequently, I don't drink for like a month or two. I'll have like a beer or two at dinner, like once a month, basically. Past that, I drink 18 Sundays during football season, maybe like a random Thursday because the Jets are on, maybe for a playoff game. But past that, I probably consume like more than a beer, maybe 20 times a year. I'm more into the grass products that everybody's allowed to do now. By the way, everybody. So don't think because of my line of work I can't do that. I'm actually allowed to now. So that's more my realm. Alcohol, it just makes me feel like shit and bloated and tired. But yeah, for a year, make the playoffs. I would never drink alcohol for the rest of my life if the Jets won the Super Bowl. I would sign the dotted line right now BC says y'all be in Minnesota. Awesome. BC, follow up with me, or at least stay streaming with me, and then maybe I'll meet up with you. But I'm going to Minnesota. That's probably the place I'm going to try to get to. I'll see how much funds I build up. Again, I just dropped quite a bit on the ZR2, so I don't know. If you like sweet mixed SoCo with cheer wine, you're welcome. Wow. Would you compare Alt to Jumbo Elliott? No, just Richard Salm. I wasn't even alive when Jumbo Elliott was doing his thing, really, right? Or barely alive. I was still pissing and shit in my pants at the minimum, so I don't know. I can't tell you. Joe, outside of lack of play time, where do you rate Mims at tackle? He's in that next group, Tony. It's in my opinion, it's like the top three. I think there's a top three. Realistically, I think it's Alt, Fashanu, Latham, and then I think that next group is the Fatanu, Fuaga, Mims, all those guys. Now in terms of differentiating each one of those guys between each other, I haven't watched enough to tell you, but I think he's in that next tier. Sneakers to Boot says, I get we need a weapon, but unless we are guaranteed Mark Harrison Jr. and neighbors, we have to draft O-line or trade down and draft O-line. So many good receivers in the second or third round. Yeah, so many good receivers in the second or third round, but at the same time, if they were neighbors or Harrison, they'd be in the first round. You know what I'm saying? It's like I get that, but at the same time, if you're trying to get bang for your buck and you're trying to make the biggest impact for this year, would you rather have an absolute stud of a receiver or a solid backup tackle and a decent receiver 3? You know what I'm saying? So I get either way. I do. I prefer the trade up to 6, you know? So, did you hear NFL is trying to eliminate hip tackles, like hip drop tackles? Yeah, I think they already did. It's stupid to me, man. Like, I don't know. I played football and I feel like I had to hip drop tackle people because, my senior year, I was really skinny. I was like 140 pounds. I was shorter than I am now. But I was like 140 pounds. Like there was running backs who were easily, 180, 190, 200 pounds that I was playing. And there's times you try to tackle them, you try to cross your helmet in front of their face, and then they're so freaking strong that they're blowing past you, and your hips naturally swing around. And the only thing you can do there, unless your core is so strong, where you like Superman hug them the entire way, like you're fucking like the little giants, you're going to like naturally swing around and hip drop. Like it just kind of is what it is. I think it's really hard for DBs to not do that at times. So I don't like it because I think it's a football play. Like it's just going to happen naturally. So I think it's kind of bullshit, So does Max Crosby. I don't know what that's about, Tom C, but what about him? SoCo, Southern Comfort, or yeah, SoCo. That's what I'm talking about. I prefer weed. Never. Yeah, it could burn you out though the next day. Freedom, right? I guess it depends on how used you are to it. But if you're like if you're a chief in a grab bong, you might be a little bit tired the rest of the day or a little bit like burnt out the next morning. But yeah, definitely no hangovers where it's like, dude, obviously we're all in our low 20s before, and maybe some people aren't like drinkers or whatever, but there's been days where you wake up and it's just like death for 12 hours. Like I'm talking my go-to, if I'm ever really hungover, which I haven't been really, really hungover in years, but if I was ever really, really hungover, the move is I just get in the shower immediately, hot water, just hand on the wall and just lean over and just, I've had those days. You take an edible, that doesn't happen. You're pretty good. You might be groggy, but you're fine. You're fine. And it's just, dude, and like, I'm not even trying to get into this stuff, but it's all about thinking. Like there's going to be no difference in people's thinking about that shit in 10 years from now. It's going to be just as normalized. And again, me in my profession, I go to a lot more like domestic violence issues and drunk driving and people killing each other, fighting each other because of alcohol. You don't really go to a lot of fight calls because people are high. Like you might get like, hey, this guy's sitting at a red light for 3 cycles. Yeah, that might happen, but like typically people want to eat pizza and watch like fucking Willy Wonka. Like I don't get why people think it's so bad, but whatever. I think it's just like strict lines of thinking. It's a devil's drug. All right. Sure. One makes you crash cars and choke on your own vomit and cheat on your wife, and one makes you want to eat a fucking pizza, but Verge says, what up? Can't watch live. We'll watch later. Fiending for the Blue It film reviews. I appreciate that, Verge. They will be out. Again, I'm starting them all next week. I plan on doing 3 on my days off. So just 1 a day off, and then I will get them all out. So Joe will give up alcohol for life when the Jets win a Super Bowl. Let's be real here. I said if I had to. Now, if they win the Super Bowl, then there's no reason for me to give it up. I really enjoy. Again, I'm not like a big drinker anymore or anything like that. Now, again, friends coming over, draft, that stuff. Yeah, I'm sure I'll pound a little bit too many, but I'm more of like, give me like 2 or 3 beers at dinner. Give me like a really good Oktoberfest. Like that's where I'm at. Gangrene. Minnesota's awesome. Berrios dropped the game-winning touchdown right in front of me. I thought he caught it. The red zone in that too. That game was infuriating. Dude, they got to the red zone sneakers to boots, and it was all just trick plays, screens. It was so bad. It was so bad. But I can drink. Stu, I'll tell you next week if you're going to be here. There's like a really good brand with like coconut, which doesn't sound good, but it's coconut tequila, and it's like you could sip it. It's just so easy to drink, but I can give you that. I have that upstairs. Very jealous. NYPD cannot smoke. Yeah, and NYPD initially they were going to, and then they overturned it. And there's some cities in Jersey, Jersey City, maybe like Trenton, that are fighting it. But yeah, I'm not breaking news here, but yeah, if you're a cop, you're allowed to, as long as you buy it legally, you can smoke weed in New Jersey as a cop. Again, I think that should be all throughout the country. I think it should be federally legalized. I have no idea why it's I do know why it's a Schedule I drug, because fucking government's corrupt and shit, but we're not gonna get into that. But yeah, it's no harm. I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't. The Jets hosted a rugby player today. I think he's coming Friday, Jen. I think he's coming Friday. I don't think he came today. But yeah, possibility. Why not? Running back 4. Okay. Stated that perfectly. What is that about the weed thing? Yeah, I know. I'm very open, even at work and stuff too. Like I'm pretty open about it. I don't really hide a lot of stuff. It's just like, tell me your line of thinking. If we can't talk about it, then it's a stupid topic. Like, you should be able to talk about anything. It's like, oh my God, we can't talk about weed. It's like, okay, why? It's fucking, who cares? Because it was bad 10 years ago when I was in high school, sure. But now I can go to I can go down the street and wait in the dispensary and get it legally. Who cares? Okay, so can we all agree this is the best Jet stream? I don't think everybody agrees there, Kev, but I appreciate that you at least feel like that. So you're welcome. Okay, you're talking about tequila and stuff still. Detective and MA, cheers, Ghost. Oh, nice. Awesome, Trace. Yeah, I'm about 5 years deep into what I've been doing. So 20 years left. And then at 51 years old, I retire with a pension, and then I go full-time into this. So hey, if you guys want to ask me about like some round 3 receiver in about 20 years when I'm retired, I'll know. But right now I can't do it with my work. Hackett is clueless. Yeah. Who is left in free agency that still feel there's plenty of guys. Kev, we were just talking about some of the safeties. We highlighted some of the running backs. Tunyon's still out there for tight end. Boyd is still out there. Reynolds is still out there. DJ Chark is still out there as like a number 3 receiver, number 4 receiver. The McGovern's still out there. I'm sure there's a tackle or two. There are guys out there. Now in terms of like all the names, kind of already talking about them a little bit, but Hunter Renfrow, depth guy. Okay, I'll be okay with that. I'm not sure, Harold, that I'm okay with him as receiver 3. I could go back and watch and say, yeah, I like his film and all that stuff. But with that being said, his stats last couple of years are bad. But I don't know. Obviously, that's not the whole story. That, I know that. But 8-10, a little bit past due. I think I have to go give the baby a bath. I appreciate you guys. I will be back next week. Same deal. And then we're only a few weeks from then to the draft. Again, JorB31 on Twitter. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, expect not exactly in these days, day for day, but next week or so, we're gonna have a lot of the draft stuff dropping. So I don't really like recap like a lot of the film on these shows because I talk a lot and I just talk to you guys and I like to kind of interact with you guys. But in terms of like just seeing me for an hour to 2 to 3 hours, just get into the nitty gritty of the film and hand placement, all that shit, then watch those reviews, and then you'll see why I don't like guys, and you can disagree with me. That's fine, but I provide it. I provide the evidence, at least, what I think is evidence. So you can disagree with the evidence. That's fine. But for people to like bring out really strong opinions because of a 3-minute YouTube highlight drives me crazy. But yeah, so they'll all be out there. I appreciate you guys. I will